Rock climbing club signups. Department basketball tryouts. Must be over 6 feet tall. Priority given to former high school varsity players. Department of Communications welcomes all freshmen. Booths lined both sides of the path, many already displaying banners. It was clearly the annual student activities fair, where the student council and various clubs recruited new members. Jessica Sullivan was the vice president of the Fine Arts Department's student council. Combined with her good looks, she was quite the popular figure within the department. Many of the students busy recruiting were fellow council members who recognized her, calling out greetings as she passed. She smiled and acknowledged each one, occasionally stopping to chat for a moment with those she knew well. Michael Thompson trailed beside her, carrying a smoothie, feeling like some lackey hired to carry her things, all while enduring curious glances from others. He chuckled. "You're really popular, Jessica. You could be too, you know. Interested in joining the student council? I'll look out for you." Jessica Sullivan patted her chest confidently. Michael Thompson shook his head. "I'll pass. Don't be shy. It's not shyness. It's just that the current president probably wouldn't give up a spot for me. And if I joined, I'd definitely have to be the president." Michael Thompson deadpanned. "Then you'd be working for me, Jessica Sullivan. You wouldn't be able to look out for me then. You're full of it." Jessica Sullivan rolled her eyes at him. "No freshman becomes president at our school. Usually, freshmen are just members, sophomores become vice chairs or assistant directors, juniors get elected president, secretary, or treasurer, and the rest become department heads. Freshmen always started college full of ambition, feeling like they absolutely had to join the student council or become a class representatives. They'd sign up for everything, only to find themselves doing grunt work while their roommates who didn't join were back in the dormitory playing games. Then they'd get called out to do tasks during their own free time. Consequently, most quit by sophomore year, leaving only a few dedicated members who then became the vice chairs and directors, just in time for a new wave of enthusiastic freshmen to arrive. Michael Thompson had been through it once before, so he had absolutely no interest in student council this time around. Jessica Sullivan tried to persuade him anyway. "There are perks to joining, you know. It helps with applications, gives you priority for scholarships, and if you want to go to grad school here later, the interview process will be much easier." "No, really forget it. I'm too lazy for that." Michael Thompson waved his hand dismissively. Jessica Sullivan asked curiously, "So, what clubs are you thinking of joining?" "There are lots of interest-based clubs here, but some are kind of rip-offs. They charge high fees and barely organize any activities all semester. Tell me which ones you're considering, and I can help you avoid the duds." "Would it be weird not to join any clubs?" "Not really. But isn't joining something part of the college experience? We have a decent amount of free time here. I'm busy. Besides school stuff, I have my own things to do." Michael Thompson and Jessica Sullivan chatted all the way until they reached the building for his class. He said goodbye to Jessica Sullivan, who was heading to the library to study. "Okay, I'm off to class. See ya, Jessica Sullivan." "Okay, thanks for the smoothie." Jessica Sullivan smiled, holding it up slightly before waving goodbye and walking away. During his afternoon class, Michael Thompson sat in the art studio holding a drawing board, listening to the professor. He basically knew all the watercolor techniques already. Howard Banks had taught him long ago. The instructor was an older professor from Rhode Island School of Design, supposedly a member of the Boston Art Association, but his teaching style immediately highlighted the difference compared to Howard Banks. Howard Banks, considering Michael Thompson's fast learning pace, had taught him techniques incredibly quickly, often demonstrating something just once before having Michael Thompson replicate it. That method, however, really only worked one-on-one. There was basically no one else in this class who could keep up with Michael Thompson. The old professor had a completely different style, painfully slow. He spoke deliberately, often repeating a single point 3 times. Just introducing the basics of watercolor nearly took up the entire short class period. Michael Thompson had taken a nap at lunch and had felt quite awake initially, but after listening for a while, he started feeling drowsy again. He wasn't the worst off, though. Next to him, Taylor Johnson was clutching his board, head slumped to the side, already snoring audibly. "Can anyone even focus in here?" Michael Thompson couldn't help complaining quietly to Gregory beside him. "His snoring is so loud, I can't even doze off." Gregory Wilson wasn't really listening to the lecture either, but he was a master of pretending. He always acted like the most diligent student, listening with a serious expression, holding a notebook as if taking notes, occasionally nodding as if agreeing with the professor. But if you actually looked at his notebook, you'd find pages filled with lyrics to cheesy, popular love songs. This time, however, Gregory Wilson wasn't even pretending. He was stealthily texting someone on his phone. Michael Thompson's sudden comment startled him. making him jump and almost drop his phone. Huh. Oh yeah, right. This guy snores even louder when he sleeps at night. Who are you texting so intently? Michael Thompson asked. Who? No one. Michael Thompson reached for the phone. Gregory Wilson quickly tried to shield it, but Michael Thompson was faster. Vivian? You know her well. Michael Thompson asked, surprised after seeing the name on the screen. Give it back. Gregory Wilson snatched his phone back, flicking his bangs smugly. We weren't that close originally, but I think she might be into me. You know she likes me is one of the classic delusions, right? Seriously, I'm not lying. She's been initiating chats with me a lot lately. What else could it mean if she's not interested? Gregory Wilson grinned, so wide his mouth nearly split. Gotta say, she has good taste, spotting the gold hidden among the rocks. Michael Thompson doubted Vivian was actually into Gregory Wilson. After all, the guy was plain-looking, nothing particularly outstanding about him, and he sucked at games. Plus, Michael Thompson hadn't gotten a good impression of Vivian at the last party. She struck him as the type who expertly strings guys along while acting innocent. But Michael Thompson didn't say any of that aloud. He just scoffed. What? Our game's not fun anymore? Cigarettes lost their kick? Booze doesn't taste good? What's so great about chasing girls anyway? Gregory Wilson thought about it seriously for a moment, then nodded. Michael Thompson, you're right. So, want to team up online tonight? Michael Thompson highly commended his sudden enlightenment, then immediately shot him down. Nope, I'm having dinner with my girlfriend tonight. Damn you, Michael Thompson. You hypocrite. Student clubs at Harvard University were also recruiting new members recently. Among Olivia Sullivan's roommates, Laura Gibson and Lily Carter were both planning to join the student government. Linda scoffed at the idea. She had recently become obsessed with romance novels, spending all day holed up in their dormitory room, glued to her phone. If it weren't for basic needs like eating and using the restroom forcing her out, Olivia Sullivan suspected Linda might have actually fused with her bed. But Olivia Sullivan had no plans to join the student government either. She had her own thing she wanted to do. What? You're getting a part-time job? Michael Thompson asked, completely astonished, as he and Olivia Sullivan were eating together in a Harvard University cafeteria. Olivia Sullivan glanced around awkwardly and whispered, "Don't be so loud. It's not that weird for a college student to get a part-time job." No. It's not weird for other people, but it's very weird for Miss Olivia Sullivan to get a part-time job, Michael Thompson said, shocked. You're not trying to earn money to support me, are you? Did the Sullivan family go bankrupt? What are you talking about? I just want to gain some real-world experience. So what kind of job are you thinking of? Handing out flyers? No, Claire Evans has a part-time job. She tutors. I thought I could do tutoring too. Michael Thompson couldn't understand what she was thinking, but he wasn't exactly thrilled about Olivia wanting a part-time job. Mostly, he hated the thought of her having to struggle like that. It wasn't like she needed the money. It seemed completely unnecessary. Wasn't she just looking for trouble? Michael Thompson looked at Olivia Sullivan's determined face and felt a headache coming on. It was rare to see her so set on doing something independently, and crushing her confidence didn't seem right. He needed to come up with a plan. You just want a part-time job, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be tutoring, does it? Michael Thompson confirmed. Olivia Sullivan nodded, then added, but it has to be something where I can really learn and grow, preferably not just manual labor. Michael Thompson rubbed his chin and nodded. Okay, how about we start our own little business? Olivia Sullivan was taken aback for a moment, then asked hesitantly, a business? What kind of business? Is there anything you'd like to do? You're asking me out of the blue. Well, think about it when you get back. If you don't have any ideas, you can just go with mine. Michael Thompson pulled out the card Olivia Sullivan had given him before, waved it in front of her, and grinned. We have the capital. Worst case, we lose a little money, right? He had never planned on getting back into business in this lifetime. He just wanted to be a solitary artist. But if Olivia Sullivan was interested, he didn't mind helping her find something to do. After so many years in business, finding a profitable little venture wasn't exactly difficult. Olivia Sullivan felt a bit awkward and mumbled, I just want a part-time job. Why was Michael Thompson suddenly so fired up, looking like he wanted to turn this into something big? After leaving Harvard University, driving home, Michael Thompson started seriously pondering what kind of small business would be good to start. He didn't object to Olivia Sullivan being ambitious or even wanting to be a strong businesswoman, but he did object to her taking on meaningless and unnecessary part-time jobs just for the sake of gaining experience. In his past life, Olivia Sullivan might have had dreams, but in the end, she had simply settled into being a traditional wife and mother at home. Maybe that life had been good for her, or maybe she had harbored some regrets. The previous Michael Thompson had never considered such things because Olivia Sullivan had never shown any sign for him to notice. But in this life, Olivia Sullivan wasn't closed off. Her personality wasn't as reserved as it later became. Michael Thompson was only now realizing that Olivia Sullivan had always been driven, just like how in high school she had been determined to get into Harvard University and had even planned out studying abroad for grad school and a PhD. She wasn't just his accessory, nor was she merely a pretty face. She had her own ambitions and dreams. So, in this life, whatever she wanted to do, Michael Thompson would support her and help her. But starting a business in college, what would be good? Michael Thompson pondered this deeply the whole drive home. His expertise lay in high-end luxury goods like jewelry and fashion. He could have Olivia Sullivan follow the path he had successfully taken before, starting with eBay. However, that was his area of expertise, not Olivia Sullivan's. He had a feeling that if he took the lead, Olivia Sullivan's role would end up being the boss's wife in name only, while actually functioning as eBay customer service. He decided to wait a couple of days to see if Olivia Sullivan came up with any ideas herself. If not, it wouldn't be too late to start with his plan then. Michael Thompson was lost in these thoughts when he realized he had arrived home. After parking his car, he noticed an unfamiliar Range Rover with unfamiliar plates parked in his family spot. Do we have guests? Michael Thompson wondered briefly, but didn't dwell on it. After parking, he headed towards the house. Once inside the courtyard and entering the main hall, he saw Howard Banks having tea with a stranger. Seeing Michael Thompson, the stranger put down his teacup and said with a smile, "I heard Master Howard had taken on a new disciple. I didn't quite believe it at first, but I see it's true. Got the urge in my old age. Guess it was fate," Howard Banks said with a laugh, then beckoned Michael Thompson over. "This is the CEO of the Xinhua Group. You could just call him Uncle Gibson." The Xinhua Group was quite a large company in Boston, primarily involved in physical businesses like hotels and shopping malls. The biggest five-star hotel in Boston belonged to them. Howard Banks was, after all, a leading figure in the world of traditional Chinese painting, quite famous in Boston, and his associates were invariably wealthy or influential. Michael Thompson was used to this sort of thing by now and greeted him, "Hello, Uncle Gibson." Samuel Gibson sized up the young man before him and nodded. "Quite the talent. Since you call me uncle, let me give you a welcoming gift." He took a piece of what looked like a family heirloom from around his neck and offered it to Michael Thompson. "Agate stone nourishes a person. This piece came from a renowned source. It's yours." Michael Thompson gave him a slightly strange look, then glanced at Howard Banks. Howard Banks scoffed. "If he gives it to you, just take it. This guy's got more money than sense." Michael Thompson was speechless. Was it really okay to be so blunt right in front of the guy? Samuel Gibson didn't seem offended, acting as if he hadn't heard. But Michael Thompson didn't accept it. He just shook his head and said, "I don't know if agate stone nourishes people, but this piece certainly won't." The smile on Samuel Gibson's face instantly froze. He clearly hadn't expected Michael Thompson to say that, and asked awkwardly, "Why do you say that?" "Because it's fake agate stone," Michael Thompson kindly pointed out. "It's glass, dyed to look like good agate stone. Wearing it for a long time isn't good for you." Michael Thompson's words caught Howard Banks and Samuel Gibson somewhat by surprise. Samuel Gibson frowned and said, "You can't just say things like that. This jade came with a certificate." "A certificate doesn't change anything if it's fake," Michael Thompson said bluntly, shrugging. Howard Banks looked at Michael Thompson, quite surprised, but backed him up, saying, "Gibson, my apprentice here, Thompson, comes from a family that deals in precious stones. I reckon he wouldn't say that without reason. Where did you get this jade?" Actually, Howard wasn't entirely correct. Michael Thompson's father dealt in agate, which is quite different from jade carving. Even if you showed Robert Thompson a piece of grade B fake jade made of dyed glass, he wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And Michael Thompson didn't know much about jade either, but he had the appraisal skill given to him by the system, allowing him to determine its authenticity at a glance. So, he spoke with complete confidence. If he said it was fake jade, then it definitely was. Samuel Gibson's face instantly turned pale. He meant well by giving a gift, only to present a fake and get called out on the spot. He stammered for a moment before saying, "I got it as payment for a debt from a jade factory. It was part of shipment valued at nearly $3,000,000. That was why he'd been so generous with it. He hadn't been able to collect on a previous debt, so the debtor gave him a batch of jade items instead. A big boss like him couldn't be bothered to deal with the merchandise, figuring he'd use them as decorations in his hotel and occasionally give some away as favors. But if this piece was fake, how many items in that $3 million batch were actually real. Or was the whole lot fake? Whoa, that's no small amount, Michael Thompson added helpfully. You should get a professional to appraise the rest when you get back. Then you can return them or report it to the police, whatever needs doing. Samuel Gibson looked uncomfortable and couldn't sit still any longer. He stood up to leave, saying, Howard, I should get going for today. Howard Banks waved him off. Go on, go on. I know you're anxious to leave. About what we discussed earlier. We'll talk later. Samuel Gibson had no choice but to take his leave. After he left, Michael Thompson sat down on the sofa and asked, Master, what did Mr. Gibson want from you? He wants to commission a painting for his office, so he came to ask me, Howard Banks said, smiling as he held his teacup. That must cost quite a bit, right? It does. Why do you ask? Michael Thompson chuckled sheepishly. Just curious? No reason. Howard Banks said, You should focus that energy on your studies. In another 10 or 20 years, people will be coming here to ask you, not me. Understand? Michael Thompson said cheekily, 10 or 20 years is too long. Can't we shorten that a bit? Such impatience. Howard Banks shot him an annoyed look, then stood up. All right, come with me to the studio. We'll practice ink wash painting tonight. Later that evening, after finishing his painting practice, Michael Thompson spent some time carving alone in his room, finishing a dragon head seal he'd been working on. As usual, the base of the seal was left blank, since he didn't know who would end up owning it. Leaving it blank allowed for future customization according to a client's request. He had quite a few such seals, some of which he had sold for pocket money. Since starting college, Howard Banks had intentionally introduced him to his network, often taking Michael Thompson out to meals, allowing him to meet many people in the art world. He was clearly grooming him as a successor. Michael Thompson was starting to understand the benefits of having connections. Compared to his previous life, where insiders looked down on him as just a businessman obsessed with money, in this life, he was experiencing what it felt like to be valued. The most interesting part was recognizing a few people who had scorned him in his past life, but were now shamelessly trying to cozy up to him. Through these insiders, however, Michael Thompson also met many wealthy patrons. Combined with his master-level carving skills and his special empathy ability, his works were instantly distinguishable from others and sold exceptionally well. If Michael Thompson had been more focused on making money and actively pursued this side of things, he could have earned a fortune by now. Instead, he was just selling practice seals for a bit of spending money. The next day, Michael Thompson still hadn't heard back from Olivia Sullivan. It seemed Olivia still needed some time to think things over. He wasn't worried. The ball was in Olivia's court, and his role was just to support her decision. Michael Thompson only had one class that morning, which finished at 9:30 a.m. He didn't have anything pressing to do at home, so he decided to stay on campus and hang out in Tyler Johnson's dorm room. The dorms at Rhode Island School of Design ranged from quads to 6-person rooms. Tyler Johnson's was a 6-person room, but with one empty bed, only 5 people lived there. Technically, if Michael Thompson had lived on campus, that empty bed should have been his, since there were only 12 guys in their class, enough for exactly 2 rooms. That's why Tyler Johnson and the others often joke that Michael Thompson was the 6th man in their 5-person room. After class, the first thing Tyler Johnson and his roommates did upon returning to the dorm was boot up their computers, log into a game, and start an intense gaming session together. One of their roommates, a tall guy named Ben Thompson, didn't play games, so while the others gamed, he usually watched TV shows. Michael Thompson pulled up a small stool and sat next to Ben Thompson, watching with him. Despite Ben Thompson being tall and broadly built, he had a soft spot for Korean dramas, which often left him teary-eyed. At first, Michael Thompson was dismissive. What's so great about cliché K-dramas? It's always the same. Car accidents, amnesia, incurable diseases. Then he watched for a little while. Damn, this is actually good. TV shows have gotten this complex. Right, Michael? This show, Goblin, is amazing. Ben Thompson, feeling like he'd found a kindred spirit, excitedly shared his thoughts on it. Michael Thompson watched, completely engrossed, and the time passed quickly. Just as everyone in the room was doing their own thing, there was a sudden knock on the door, and then it was pushed open. Room inspection, a rather stern voice announced from the doorway, and several students dressed smartly in blazers, looking overly official, walked in. The occupants of the room immediately stopped gaming and quickly stood up. Tyler Johnson even muttered shit under his breath before reluctantly standing up, watching helplessly as his computer screen turned black and white. Michael Thompson remained oblivious, but Ben Thompson beside him whispered a reminder. Michael, get up. Huh, it's just a room inspection. Why do we need stand up? Michael's comment immediately pissed off the student union members who were there for a dorm inspection. These guys were sophomores from the student union's student life division, led by their vice chair, Ryan. Ryan walked up behind Michael, scowling, and said, "Don't you even know to greet an upperclassman when you see one?" Michael glanced up over his shoulder, nodded, and said, "Make yourselves comfortable, like you own the place." Ryan was speechless. Damn, that completely derailed his train of thought. His annoyance obvious, he kicked Michael's chair. "Don't you know it's rude to stay seated when greeting someone?" Michael glanced down at his chair, then stood up. Ryan, thinking Michael was intimidated, felt quite pleased. But just as he turned to speak, he heard Michael ask Ben beside him, "Who's this idiot?" Ben whispered back, "The vice chair of our college's student union's student life division. Don't know his name." The vice chair, huh? Students these days are really something, Michael mused. He felt a touch of nostalgia. In his past university life, dorm inspections were rare, and he'd never dealt with this. Later, during his own sophomore year, 4 of the 6 guys in his dorm had ended up as vice chairs in the student life division, which had made things very convenient. He'd certainly never encountered an idiot like this one. He was whispering with Ben, but how big is a dorm room? Ryan hadn't moved and was standing right beside Michael, so naturally, he heard every word. His face darkened, while Gregory, standing nearby, couldn't help but snort with laughter. "Michael, I know who you are. Think being the freshman rep makes you something special." Ryan snapped, then turned to the members with him. These freshmen have no respect these days. Michael wasn't about to put up with him. He rummaged around on Ben's desk, found a student handbook, and held it out. "Here, upperclassmen. Show me exactly which rule I broke." Ryan was speechless again, but quickly recovered, craning his neck stubbornly in annoyance. "You disrespected me." Michael looked puzzled. "Weren't you the one who ordered me to stand up the second you walked in? Where was the respect for me? I'm the vice chair of the student life division." Michael flipped through the handbook again and spread it open in front of Ryan. "Doesn't say anything in here about standing up for the student life division chair. Maybe you should talk to the university president about adding that. Vice chair? We're just freshmen. How would we know if it's not spelled out?" This supposedly helpful suggestion made Ryan's already dark face turn practically green. Talk to the president? Put it in the handbook? Might as well suggest taking it to the government and making it a national law. Ryan had never met a freshman like this. He struggled for a retort, but couldn't find one. Furious, he finally said, "Fine, I'll remember you. Who's your advisor?" He was trying to scare Michael. Most freshmen were intimidated by faculty and would usually back down at the mention of their advisor. But Michael wasn't fazed. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, and held it out. "Here's my advisor's number. Why don't you call him right now?" Ryan was stunned. This kid wasn't following the usual script. He was just bluffing. He never intended to actually call the advisor. If word got out, people would think he was bullying a freshman. Besides, a student union officer tattling to an advisor over something so trivial would make others question his abilities and laugh at him. Luckily, while he hadn't scared Michael, he had clearly intimidated the others in the room. "Michael, just let it go," Ben urged him. "It's not worth it. We have class soon." Seizing the chance to save face, Ryan ignored Michael and started ordering his members to proceed with the inspection. But having been put in his place by Michael, Ryan was simmering with resentment and naturally started nitpicking during the inspection. No clothes on the windowsill. No trash in the trash can. Nothing on top of the bookshelves. In reality, Tyler Johnson's room was quite clean. At least there weren't instant ramen containers all over the floor. But Ryan found fault with everything. It looked like they were about to lose a significant number of conduct points. Ryan told his members to write up the room. As they were preparing to leave, his eyes landed on an intricate Gundam model with a realistic metallic finish sitting on Tyler Johnson's bookshelf. "Who said you could put this on your shelf? It's confiscated," he snapped, walking over to grab it. Tyler Johnson, who had been silent during the rest of the inspection, suddenly became agitated. "No, I'll put it away, just don't take it. You can't confiscate this. Who's in charge here? Me or you?" Ryan retorted dismissively, reaching out to snatch the model. Tyler instinctively tried to stop him, panicking and shoving Ryan back. Furious at being pushed, Ryan deliberately let the Gundam model slip from his grasp, sending it crashing to the floor. Clatter. After the sharp sound, the room went completely silent. Tyler Johnson stared blankly down at the shattered pieces scattered across the floor, his expression growing darker by the second, his fists clenching tightly. Ryan deliberately announced loudly, "You all saw that. He pushed me first. It was an accident. I'm not paying for it." Before he could finish, a furious roar exploded next to his ear. "You son of a bitch!" Ryan didn't even have time to react before he felt a searing impact on his cheek. a heavy punch that sent him staggering to the floor. He lay on the ground, clutching his face, his mind reeling. Did I just get punched? The sharp, stinging pain radiating from his cheek confirmed it wasn't a dream. He looked up at Tyler Johnson, utter disbelief flooding his features. You hit me. Damn right I did. Tyler Johnson, eyes bloodshot with rage, cursed through clenched teeth, lunged forward, grabbed Ryan by the collar, and looked ready to smash his head against the floor. This turn of events caught everyone completely by surprise, including Michael. He hadn't expected Tyler Johnson to react so violently and actually hit Ryan. But if this kept up, things would get really ugly. Michael, what do we do? Ben, panicking beside him, instinctively turned to Michael. Michael started taking off his jacket, lowering his voice. What do you mean? Just make sure you pull me and Tyler Johnson back. Oh, okay, right? Huh. Ben hastily agreed, but then paused, confused. Pull me and Tyler Johnson back? Isn't Tyler the only one fighting? Before Ben could wrap his head around it, he heard Michael yell, shit. Turning in astonishment, Ben saw Michael charge forward and jump into the fray, landing punches on Ryan alongside Tyler. Tyler Johnson, let it go, let it go. Michael, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Finally, with everyone pulling them apart, the commotion ended. As Ryan was leaving, head tilted back, dabbing his bloody nose, he didn't forget to throw out a threat. Fine, just fine. You two just wait, you're getting expelled. Michael lunged like he was going to hit him again, and Ryan immediately forgot about his threats and scrambled away. After Ryan left, Tyler Johnson, his face grim, silently started picking up the broken pieces from the floor. The other guys in the dorm watched, unsure what to do. Gregory sidled up to Michael and whispered, Michael, I wanted to jump in too, but I'm really no good in a fight. You're not mad at me, right? Truthfully, he just chickened out. But since Michael had rushed in immediately while he hadn't, it made him look like a bad friend. Michael looked at the others in the dorm, who also looked guilty. He scoffed. Jump in? Hell no. If you guys had actually joined in, that would have been truly stupid. So, what happens now? The speaker was Cole, whose most striking feature, thanks to constantly staying up late, was his dark circles, earning him the nickname Old Cat because he was such a night owl. As Old Cat spoke, he couldn't help but swallow hard, still shaken. Hitting someone might feel good in a moment, but what about the consequences afterward? University rules might not be as strict as high school, but fighting was still a serious offense. You'd definitely face disciplinary action, and if things went badly, suspension or even expulsion was possible. Michael glanced at Tyler Johnson, who had finished cleaning up and was now squatting by the balcony, smoking. He turned to the others and said, It's fine. Go to class as usual. Don't worry about it. However, Michael and Tyler Johnson didn't make it to their afternoon classes. They were summoned directly to the office by their advisor, Samuel Gibson. Samuel Gibson knew about the fight and that they'd fought a student union officer from their own college, and he was so furious he looked ready to unleash some Wing Chun on them right then and there. You two are really something else. How long has the semester even started? And you're already causing this kind of trouble. Samuel Gibson was livid and chewed them out thoroughly. Tyler Johnson kept his head down and stayed silent the whole time. Michael didn't make excuses in front of the advisor either, obediently admitting fault. But halfway through Samuel Gibson's lecture, he was interrupted by several phone calls. He had to take the calls, and each time he repeated variations of the same few lines. Yes, that had happened. They're young men, tempers flare, it's normal. Did you mention it to the university leadership? No need, really, there's no need. I can handle this minor issue. Disciplinary action. Yes, that's likely unavoidable, but the record can be clear before graduation. Their degrees? No, it won't affect that. In the afternoon, Howard Banks himself came to the university to see Michael's advisor, Samuel Gibson. Samuel Gibson had the two students step outside, then politely invited Dean Howard Banks into his office. As Michael left the office, the old man pointed a finger at him, his eyes clearly saying, "You'll explain this properly when you get home." While Howard Banks was inside, getting the details from Samuel Gibson, Michael and Tyler Johnson stood waiting outside the door like they were being punished. "Michael, thanks." It was the first thing Tyler Johnson said after being silent for so long. Michael waved dismissively, unconcerned. "Thank for what? We're buddies. There are so many people there, but you're the only one who jumped in to help me without a second thought," Tyler Johnson said, sounding moved. "It's not that I blame the others like Old Cat, but it just feels different, He looked at Michael and said seriously, "I won't forget this, Michael. From now on, you're my big brother." Michael grinned. "Help you in one fight, and I'm your big brother? If I help you with something else, are you going to call me Dad? Get out of here, don't say stuff like that." Tyler Johnson finally cracked a smile too, seeming much more relaxed. Still, I never expected you'd jump in to help me, Michael, he added reflectively. Because in his eyes, Michael wasn't like the others. His way of thinking and acting seemed much more mature, more savvy than others their age. That kind of impulsive act, driven by loyalty, didn't seem like something Michael would do. Michael just smiled at that. He wasn't really that impulsive. No matter how much he disliked someone, he wouldn't resort to such a crude method as physical violence. It was just that if he hadn't helped, Tyler Johnson would have been in serious trouble. Without Michael's involvement, Tyler Johnson might really have been suspended or even expelled over this. But with Michael also involved in the fight, things were different. After all, his own Samuel Shaw still held a position at Rhode Island School of Design Preparatory. Things couldn't get so bad that Michael would be expelled. So, in the end, the matter would likely be smoothed over. At worst, they'd get a demerit, but it wouldn't escalate. Michael hadn't had much choice. Things happened suddenly, and in the heat of the moment, this was the only solution he could think of, acting almost instinctively. He said with a smile, "Never mind me. You were pretty impulsive yourself. Was that model really valuable? Or did it have some special meaning for you?" "It was pretty expensive, yeah. Over $20,000, Tyler Johnson said casually. "Mainly, it's discontinued. You can't buy it anymore." Michael glanced at him, a little surprised. Spending over $20,000 on a discontinued model. For a typical college student, how long would it take to save that up? Definitely more than you could earn from a summer job. No wonder Tyler Johnson reacted so strongly when the model got smashed. Just as he was about to reassure Tyler Johnson not to worry about suspension or expulsion, Tyler suddenly spoke first. "Michael, don't worry. This won't blow up. We won't get expelled." Michael, "Dude, how'd you beat me to it?" Tyler Johnson hinted obliquely. "Actually, my family's pretty well off and connected. Don't worry, I can handle this." Damn, he beat me to the reveal. Michael never expected Tyler Johnson to be the first one to deploy the "all right, cards on the table, I'm done pretending" power move. For a moment, he looked at Tyler Johnson with a very strange expression. Who knew? A master hiding in plain sight. In this showdown of subtle flexing, he had lost. Tyler Johnson continued reflectively. "I didn't realize my dad even knew our college's Dean Howard Banks, though. Did you see? When Dean Banks went in just now, he pointed at me. His look totally meant, don't worry. Looks like this is settled." Michael held back for a long moment before finally managing to say, "You're right." The incident blew over quickly. A few days later, the university's disciplinary decision came down. Michael and Tyler Johnson received demerits for assaulting the deputy head of the student life department in the dormitory. They were disqualified from scholarships for the academic year and were publicly criticized throughout the college. The deputy head in question was quite dissatisfied with this outcome and even went to the dean's office demanding a better explanation. Ryan was furious about how the school handled the situation. What the hell? Last year, a student from his own department got suspended for a whole year just for fighting with someone in the cafeteria. Now, a student union rep gets beaten up by two freshmen and the school barely does anything? The moment Ryan heard the decision, he went straight to the dean's office to talk to a staff member he was friendly with and state his case. Having been a student union officer at Rhode Island School of Design Preparatory for so long, he thought he had pretty good relationships with the faculty and staff. But to his surprise, when he tried to complain to the staffer in the dean's office, he was basically shown the door. The school has its reasons for handling things this way. If you're not satisfied, there's nothing we can do. We follow the rules and regulations, the staff member, who was usually friendly, said, now giving him the official runaround. Besides, based on what we've learned, you weren't entirely blameless in this incident either. Feeling wronged, Ryan couldn't help but raise his voice. What did I do wrong? You smashed the other guy's property, and you're asking what you did wrong? No, that was because he pushed me, and my hand slipped. It fell accidentally. Ryan tried desperately to explain, but the staffer didn't want to hear it, waving him off. All right. Arguing with me isn't going to help. If you're unhappy with the decision, you can take it up with the school administration. Take it up with the administration? Which administrator? Ryan knew he was just getting the runaround, and he seethed with anger. But he didn't dare make a scene in front of a school official. His mind started racing, plotting how to get even. He'd been navigating this school long enough. Dealing with two freshmen should be a piece of cake, right? As he schemed, his intentions became visible on his face. The dean's office staff member beside him offered a well-intentioned warning. I'd advise you to just let this go. Those two freshmen are not people you want to mess with. Ryan looked up, surprised. Sir, what do you mean by that? Well, let me just tell you this, and keep it to yourself. The staffer hesitated, then hinted delicately. That freshman, Michael. He lives off campus. Do you know where? What does where he lives have to do with me? He lives with President Howard Banks. Ryan fell silent instantly. As a student in the painting department, he certainly knew who President Howard Banks was. And if Michael was living with President Howard Banks, their relationship must be serious, probably a relative, like a nephew. And the other one, Tyler Johnson. The staffer stood up, walked to the window, and beckoned Ryan over. Confused, Ryan walked over. The staffer pointed to a new building under construction on campus outside the window. The school's new alumni hall. His family sponsored the construction. Ryan. In that moment, any thought of retaliation, of settling the score, vanished completely. No wonder the school had acted like it was going to bring the hammer down, but ended up just giving them a slap on the wrist. He'd really messed with the wrong people, and not just one, but two. That evening, a new post appeared on the school's Campus Connect forum. I'm shaking with anger about this whole situation, breaking out in a cold sweat. My hands and feet are freezing on this hot day. Is there any justice left in the world? How can the school protect students who assaulted someone? Is this school only for the privileged? How do you expect us regular students to survive? Tears are streaming down my face uncontrollably. This campus is full of oppression against ordinary students like us. When will we ever be able to truly stand up? I'm just an uninvolved bystander, but I really can't stand seeing things like this. Michael was using his computer in his room at Samuel Shaw's house when he idly browsed Campus Connect and happened upon the post. It was hard to miss, really, as it had high engagement and was pushed to the top of the forum. His first subconscious thought upon seeing it was, which student has such powerful connections, getting special treatment at school? Like any concerned member of the public, he settled in to enjoy the drama. But after reading the post carefully, Michael's expression turned strange. Is this about me? The post was clearly about the incident where he and Tyler Johnson got disciplined for beating up Ryan. Shocked, the drama was actually about him. Michael glanced at the poster's ID, concerned citizen Wilson. That son of a bitch Ryan, he couldn't help cursing. Just an uninvolved bystander. Could that asshole be any more shameless? This was 2011, and campus forums were still quite popular, unlike after 2020 when most people stopped using them. Rhode Island School of Design Preparatory's Campus Connect was pretty well run, and Michael enjoyed lurking and reading posts there. So he saw that Ryan's post was getting a lot of traction, with many commenters expressing sympathy for the original poster and cursing out Michael and Tyler Johnson. Just as he was wondering if he should try to get someone to delete the post, Tyler Johnson called him. Hey, Michael, did you see the forum? Yeah, I was just thinking about asking the admin teacher to delete the post. No need, Michael. Haven't you scrolled down yet? That idiot Ryan totally shot himself in the foot this time. Tyler Johnson's voice on the other end sounded faintly excited and gleeful. Michael asked, confused, what happened? Tyler Johnson said mysteriously, just keep reading, Michael. Oh, playing coy now? Michael didn't hang up. He put the phone on speaker, set it on the desk, and continued scrolling through the thread. As he read further, he was stunned to find that someone had actually filmed the dorm inspection where Ryan brought people along and uploaded the video to the forum. The video showed Ryan swaggering and arrogantly, immediately launching into an aggressive confrontation with Michael, even kicking Michael's stool to make him stand up. When Michael argued back effectively, leaving Ryan embarrassed, Ryan started nitpicking during the inspection. The video ended with him snatching Tyler Johnson's Gundam model and throwing it on the floor. It was clear to anyone watching that he did it intentionally. This very video instantly flipped the direction of public opinion on the forum. Is this privileged class referring to this student union rep? Even the mayor of Boston doesn't act with that much arrogance. Are the painting department student union guys always this disgusting? Ours in the design department are fine. Don't generalize. It's just Ryan who's disgusting. The female vice chair for student life in the painting department is actually really nice. Did nobody else recognize that model? Is that a GS1 35th EXS? Holy shit, that must cost thousands, right? And he just smashed it. No wonder he got beaten up. I wouldn't be able to control my temper either if that were me. Michael Thompson couldn't believe how easily things had turned around. His phone, sitting on the table, rang with Taylor Johnson's excited voice. Michael, did you see it? Didn't Ryan totally deserve that? I'm dying laughing. Who shot that video? Michael Thompson asked curiously. That was brilliant. Kevin did. The guy was video chatting with his girlfriend at the time. What a coincidence. Michael Thompson hadn't expected such luck and couldn't help but laugh. Ryan must be totally embarrassed this time. Michael, the main reason I called was to get your opinion, Taylor Johnson said. My advisor just called me, asking if the model that got smashed was expensive. I'm wondering if I should use this chance to make that asshole Ryan pay up. Michael Thompson thought for a moment, but didn't give a definite answer. It's up to you, man. It's your stuff, after all. He didn't want to get involved. In his view, it wasn't a huge conflict, and Ryan was ultimately just a student. But Taylor Johnson's model was quite valuable, so whether to demand compensation was really Taylor's call. Taylor Johnson said, "All right then, that's all. Hey Michael, it's Saturday. Want to grab dinner tonight? We could hit the arcade afterward." Michael Thompson checked the time and declined. "I can't make it. I have to head out soon. There's an alumni gathering today." "Okay, talk to you later then." Yeah. After hanging up, Michael Thompson was in a pretty good mood. Humming a tune, he got ready to take a shower, change, and head out. It was Saturday, and some alumni from their old Oakwood High School who were now studying in Boston had organized an alumni dinner gathering. Michael Thompson had previously promised Olivia Sullivan he'd go with her. After leaving his place, he drove to Harvard University to pick up Olivia Sullivan. Olivia Sullivan looked very pretty today. After getting in the car, she kept fiddling with a small car decoration. It was a family heirloom, no idea where she got it, that she wanted to hang from the rearview mirror as an ornament. Michael Thompson drove slowly, smiling as he urged her, "Put your seatbelt on, it's dangerous." "Hold on, almost done." "Okay." After fiddling with it for a while, she finally managed to tie the family heirloom on. She held her hands up, studied it for a moment, nodded with satisfaction, and asked Michael Thompson with a grin, "I braided this myself. Does it look good?" "Looks great. Who knew Miss Olivia had such artistic talent?" Suits me perfectly." Michael Thompson nodded in earnest agreement, earning an annoyed glare from Olivia Sullivan. While driving to pick up the others, he asked Olivia Sullivan, "Have you had any thoughts about what we discussed a while back?" Previously, Olivia Sullivan had wanted to get a part-time job, but Michael Thompson had suggested she could be her own boss and start a small business instead, telling her to think about what she might want to do. That was what he was referring to now. Olivia Sullivan said, "After I went back, I discussed it thoroughly with Claire Evans." "Claire Evans? What did you discuss with her? Does she know anything about business?" "She doesn't know Jack," Michael Thompson said, a little jealously. His main grievance was that Miss Olivia hadn't discussed it with him at all these past few days. Wasn't her boyfriend more reliable than her best friend? Olivia Sullivan, sensing Michael getting jealous again, was amused but also a little happy. "Don't interrupt. When we talked about it, weren't you the one who told me to go think it over carefully?" "Okay, go on. Claire Evans and I discussed it. What do you think about a part-time job platform?" "Pimping." Olivia Sullivan pinched his arm, frowning slightly in displeasure. "Why would you say that? It sounds so crude." Michael Thompson understood what she meant now. "So, a part-time job platform. You mean like we act as middlemen? An agency connecting businesses looking to hire and college students looking for part-time work?" "Yes, exactly." What area were you thinking of?" Michael Thompson didn't immediately state his opinion, but he felt this wouldn't be easy. Running this kind of agency involves connecting two sides, the businesses and the part-time student workers. There are already quite a few agencies like this for college students. The market is pretty saturated. To establish a foothold, you either need to throw a lot of money at it or start small and gradually expand. But he and Olivia Sullivan were just college students and outsiders in Boston besides, facing several difficult obstacles. First, they didn't have enough time for business development. They only had free time outside of classes, not enough to negotiate with businesses one by one. Second was the issue of initial funding. Although Olivia Sullivan came from a wealthy background, she was still a student and might not have enough disposable cash. And knowing her, Michael Thompson was sure she'd be too embarrassed to ask her family for money. Third, as outsiders, they lacked local connections, making it hard to establish certain relationships. All things considered, convincing local businesses to choose them would be quite difficult. Michael Thompson hadn't done this specific type of business before, but his years of experience gave him some insight. He wasn't optimistic about Olivia doing this, but he didn't rush to voice his concerns, wanting to hear her thoughts first. Olivia Sullivan, sensing Michael Thompson's reservations, wasn't discouraged. She began to earnestly explain her idea. "Claire Evans and I discussed it, and we decided to focus specifically on tutoring. But we wouldn't be the direct intermediary platform ourselves. Instead, we'd work under the Elite Education Group company, mainly handling on-campus matters." "Isn't that just being a campus representative?" "Well, you could put it that way, I guess." Michael Thompson was a bit speechless. "So you'd still be working for someone else?" Olivia Sullivan replied seriously, "I think for my first time doing something like this, it's better not to aim too high. It's best to start with something simpler." She had thought this through carefully. She knew she lacked experience, and starting her own business right off the bat would likely lead to losses. Although she could rely on Michael Thompson, she didn't want to become dependent on him for everything. So, considering her actual situation, she had made this decision after careful deliberation. Being a campus rep had several advantages. First, it required no capital investment. Even if it didn't go well, the only loss would be time. Second, they could leverage the elite education group's existing client base and wouldn't need to find customers themselves. They just needed to handle the supply side, the student tutors. Olivia Sullivan felt this would be a good way to gain experience and develop her skills. Seeing that she had made up her mind, Michael Thompson didn't offer any more opinions. He nodded. All right then. How did the talks with Elite Education Group go? Have you met with their people yet? Should I go with you? We're meeting them shortly. Are we seeing them soon? Michael Thompson asked while driving. Are we meeting the people from Elite Education Group right after dinner tonight? Maybe we should do it tomorrow instead? It'll probably be pretty late after dinner. He was hoping maybe catch a movie with Olivia tonight. Olivia Sullivan shook her head. No, the head of Elite Education Group's Boston branch is actually an alum from her high school. He's coming tonight too. That surprised Michael Thompson a little. What year did he graduate? Class of 01. And he was one of Mr. Wilson's students. Michael Thompson and Olivia Sullivan were graduates of Oakwood High School's class of 11. That meant this alum was just over 30 this year. Making regional head at that age was quite an achievement. As he and Olivia Sullivan talked on the way, he learned the alum's last name was Gibson. Coincidentally, he was from the same village as Michael Thompson's mother, Margaret Thompson. Both came from Fongyong Village. Michael Thompson didn't know much about education companies like Elite Education Group, since it wasn't really related to his major, but he knew the profit margins in that industry weren't small. He learned about Elite Education Group from Olivia Sullivan during their conversations. She had really done her homework this time, researching it quite thoroughly. Elite Education Group wasn't particularly well known later on, mainly because their subsequent instructor teams were poorly developed, unable to compete with giants like New Oriental that emerged later. But right now, the company still held significant influence in the education sector in North China, focusing primarily on IELTS and TOEFL training for studying abroad and grad school prep classes. In K-12 basic education, Elite Education Group had always lacked a mature team of teachers, and in Boston, they couldn't compete with institutions like SHU-SE Education, which specialized in that area. Currently, this segment was still in its early stages for them, operating mainly as an agency recruiting part-time university students to provide tutoring services for families in need, taking a commission fee from the process. Since Elite Education Group was new to the K-12 sector, the market hadn't fully opened up yet. Setting aside the client base for a moment, regarding part-time staff, they mainly wanted to recruit from several key universities in Boston. And Harvard University, as one of the nation's top institutions, had plenty of top scorers from various provinces. If these students were willing to tutor part-time, they themselves would be a huge draw for clients. If Olivia Sullivan managed to secure the Harvard University representative role, the potential earnings were quite significant. After all, Elite Education Group was basically spending money just to generate buzz this time. For example, if a part-time tutor could earn 100 yuan an hour, normally the agency would take around 25 and the campus rep would get $10.00. Plus, the agency would typically charge a referral fee per person. But this time, Elite Education Group waived the referral fee and was only taking a 20% commission, including the campus rep's share. The campus rep's rates would increase based on performance tiers. However, this special offer was only for Harvard and a few other key universities. The commission rate for part-time students from regular universities remained largely unchanged. Michael Thompson decided to give her a little prep talk. All right, let's practice. Pretend I'm Gibson, the alum. Make your pitch. He decided to play the role of HR. Olivia Sullivan blinked her pretty eyes, looking a bit lost. Michael Thompson sighed. You haven't prepared anything at all, have you? What? Do I need to prepare? At least tell me why I should choose you. What are your strengths? Olivia Sullivan thought for a moment, then raised her hand. I'm your girlfriend. Well, I can't really argue with that reason. He gave Olivia Sullivan a light, playful chop on the head. Seriously now, no messing around. Olivia Sullivan's face was blank for a long moment. Then she clenched her small fists and said earnestly, I'll be very serious, and I'll work really hard. Michael Thompson put his hand to his forehead, a headache forming. He didn't know what to say. Is that not good enough? What do you think? Probably not. Wow. Besides being pretty, you also have the virtue of self-awareness. Unexpected, truly unexpected, Michael Thompson remarked, then threw cold water on her hopes. Look, Even though you have the connection of being an alum with this Gibson guy, don't rely too heavily on that relationship for business matters. If I were Gibson, I wouldn't choose a freshman who just started college as a campus rep. It'd be better to pick someone more familiar with the campus, preferably a student involved in the student union. And ideally a guy, the type who knows how to get things done. Okay, Olivia Sullivan deflated a little, asking plaintively, Michael Thompson, do you really think I could do it? No problem. Michael Thompson reassured her with a smile. Once we pick up Claire, Evans, and Jake, I'll have Jake drive, and I'll help you practice properly. After arriving at Beijing Normal University, they picked up Claire, Evans, and Jake Wilson. Michael Thompson handed the keys over to Jake Wilson and had Claire Evans sit in the passenger seat. Michael, maybe you should take the passenger seat? Jake Wilson was a bit timid. I haven't really driven by myself since I got my license, and I don't know the roads in Boston very well. Michael Thompson glanced at Claire Evans, already settled in the passenger seat, then gave Jake Wilson the middle finger. You're such a dumbass. While Jake Wilson was still looking confused from being cursed out, Michael Thompson slid into the back seat next to Olivia Sullivan. Claire Evans didn't stay in the passenger seat for long, though. When she heard Michael Thompson was going to run a mock interview for Olivia Sullivan, she excitedly squeezed into the back seat, insisting Michael Thompson do one for her too. She had discussed it with Olivia Sullivan earlier and was planning to try for the campus representative position at Beijing Normal University as well. Jake Wilson didn't drive for long either. After they picked up Emily Thompson, she eagerly told Jake Wilson to move to the passenger seat so she could drive. Emily Thompson had gotten her driver's license around the same time as Michael Thompson and Jake Wilson, but she was much bolder. After getting her license, she'd drive her dad's car around town every day, already acting like a seasoned pro behind the wheel. Usually, Emily Thompson didn't get to drive while at school, but since Michael Thompson had brought his car out today, she naturally wanted to get her hands on the wheel. Emily, slow down. Light. Red light up ahead. Emily Thompson drove daringly, making Jake Wilson shriek in terror from the passenger seat. But some people get instantly irritable the moment their hands touch the steering wheel. Unfortunately, Emily Thompson was one of those people. Jake, shut up. Yell again, and I'll punch your head right into your gut. Michael Thompson, sitting in the back, was actually quite scared of riding in Emily Thompson's car too, which was why he'd asked Jake Wilson to drive initially. But he didn't dare provoke Emily Thompson, the road rager, so he wisely pretended not to hear anything and just turned to whisper to Olivia Sullivan. You have insurance, right? Olivia Sullivan. ? In the end, Emily Thompson managed to drive them safely to their destination. The dinner gathering was at a restaurant near City General Hospital. It wasn't too fancy, but not too casual either, pretty suitable for the occasion. Michael Thompson and the others got out of the car. As they were heading into the restaurant, he asked Olivia Sullivan, You remember the points I just told you, right? Olivia Sullivan nodded earnestly. I remember. Michael Thompson could see she was still a bit nervous. How about I help with the discussion today instead? He offered. No. Surprisingly, Olivia Sullivan refused firmly, shaking her head. I want to do it myself. All right then. Michael Thompson shrugged, respecting her decision. The restaurant was called Golden Valley Diner, a well-established spot in Boston, but reasonably priced. A meal for 4 or 5 people would probably cost around $70 to $80, affordable for most. However, tonight's dinner was being treated by upperclassmen, so Michael Thompson and his friends were essentially just showing up to eat for free. Golden Valley Diner had 2 floors. The downstairs dining area already had quite a few customers eating, showing the place did good business. Michael Thompson's group had reserved a private room on the 2nd floor. They arrived a bit late, and the room was already full, with at least a dozen people inside. Michael Thompson recognized some faces but couldn't recall their names, probably people he'd seen around in high school but didn't know well. A few classmates from their year, however, greeted Michael Thompson and his friends warmly as soon as they saw them. Look who it is, the celebrity. Come on in, sit down, someone joked. Michael Thompson glanced behind him until the person chuckled. What are you looking around for, Michael Thompson? I'm talking about you. Michael Thompson laughed too. That's news to me. Since when am I a celebrity? He didn't hesitate, taking a seat confidently. Seeing Michael Thompson sit, Jake Wilson and the others found empty seats and sat down too. The guy who had just spoken to him sat down next to him and asked, Michael Thompson, do you remember me? Michael Thompson lied through his teeth. Sure, of course I do. Weren't you in the class next door? What's his name? So, tell me my name? Your last name's Huang, right? The guy was speechless for a moment before saying, My name is Zachary. Zachary. No, man, I was in your class. You don't remember? No way. How could I possibly forget a classmate? Art studio program, class 1. Homeroom teacher was Laura Gibson. My student ID was 29, Zachary said earnestly. Back then, you even had the nickname Young Master. This made Michael Thompson feel a bit awkward. He really was a classmate, but he had only spent half a semester in the art studio program. The only person in that class whose full name he remembered was his desk mate, Travis Miller. He really didn't know the other classmates well. Ironically, he could name most people from his original honors class. An upperclassman sitting nearby, who looked a bit older than Michael Thompson's group, asked, "Zachary, aren't you going to introduce this celebrity? I'm only 2 years ahead of you guys, and I had no idea your year produced someone famous." Hearing the upperclassman ask, the others became curious too. Zachary cleared his throat and said, "Well, that story starts on graduation day." Hearing this, Michael Thompson quickly cut him off. "Ahem, why bring that up? Hey, we were young and foolish." Beside him, Olivia Sullivan blushed. "You swept our school's #1 beauty off her feet, and now we can't even talk about it." Zachary teased, then loudly recounted the story of Michael Thompson's public confession of love. Many people at the table were from the same year. Who didn't know about Michael Thompson's famous stunt? Hearing the story again, they couldn't help but laugh. But some of the guys felt a mix of envy and jealousy. Back then, everyone treated it as a joke. But who would have thought he'd actually win the beauty's heart? Seeing the once seemingly unattainable campus queen sitting beside Michael Thompson, looking so devoted, it was impossible not to feel some regret. If only they'd been bolder back then, maybe they would be the one sitting next to Olivia Sullivan now. Everyone present was from the same hometown area and the same school. Even if they didn't know each other before, being alumni in a strange city created a natural sense of connection. Using Michael Thompson's story as an icebreaker quickly livened up the atmosphere. Olivia Sullivan was thin-skinned and felt shy after being teased, so she didn't say much. But Michael Thompson was thick-skinned and didn't mind the teasing at all. He quickly started mingling with the people next to him, chatting animatedly about funny high school stories. Just as things were getting lively, the private room door opened, and a man in a suit walked in. He had an air of maturity that set him apart from the college students like Michael Thompson. Sorry, I'm late." The newcomer was the main organizer of the gathering, Leon Gibson from Elite Education Group, an alumnus. Leon was sharply dressed in a suit, his hair slicked back, and a gold watch subtly visible on his wrist. He definitely had the look of a successful professional. He glanced around the room and said with a smile, "Looks like I'm the last one here. I guess I'll have to penalize myself with 3 drinks later." Several upperclassmen, older than Michael Thompson's group and veterans of these alumni gatherings, recognized Leon and greeted him warmly. "Leon, we saved you a spot." Leon walked over, took the seat, and placed his briefcase beside his chair. "Everyone relax. Make yourselves comfortable. Has the food been ordered? Let's get the waiter to bring the drinks first." After the waiter brought the drinks, Leon poured himself a beer and said with a smile, "Ladies, drink whatever you like. Guys, fill up your glasses. We'll go around and do introductions in a bit so everyone can get acquainted. Since I organized this, I'll start." He picked up his beer glass, stood up, and said, "My name is Leon, class is 01. Probably the oldest one here, right? Anyway, welcome to Boston, everyone. Let me propose a toast." With that, he raised his glass, downed the beer in one go, and sat back down. With Leon setting the example, everyone followed suit, taking turns introducing themselves with glass in hand, moving from left to right. When it was Michael Thompson's turn, he initially intended to pour a beer just for show. But as he reached for the bottle, Olivia Sullivan beside him quickly snatched it, hugging it protectively and giving him a wary look. Her eyes clearly said, "Don't you dare take a sip." Others noticed this exchange and Leon teased, "Looks like our young alumnus here is henpecked." The group burst into laughter. Olivia Sullivan felt a bit awkward, thinking she should have given Michael Thompson some face in front of everyone. Michael Thompson, however, wasn't bothered. He poured himself a glass of juice, stood up, and said, "Mr. Gibson, actually my throat's been sore the last couple of days, and I took some cephalosporin antibiotics before coming out. I was going to try and tough it out with a beer, but I guess I'd better stick to juice. Hope nobody minds." With just that one sentence, he casually eased Olivia Sullivan's embarrassment. During dinner, Leon wasn't seated far from Michael Thompson. Leon was a smooth talker, knew how to work a room, and seemed pretty down to earth. But maybe because everyone else, there was a college student in their early 20s, and he was the only working stiff in his 30s, he always spoke with the condescending tone of an older brother figure offering advice. Michael Thompson was different. Despite being an old soul inside, he blended in perfectly with the younger crowd. Olivia Sullivan even occasionally called him childish. At the table, Olivia Sullivan sat quietly beside Michael Thompson, only exchanging a few words with him and Claire Evans. At this kind of Thanksgiving dinner, surrounded by people she didn't know well, she came across as particularly shy and reserved. Claire Evans was much more outgoing. With her impatient nature, she tried several times during the meal to strike up a conversation with Leon about the campus representative position, but Michael Thompson stopped her each time. "Why won't you let me talk to him? Isn't this the perfect chance?" Claire Evans complained, clearly annoyed. Michael Thompson shook his head and lowered his voice. "Wrong time, wrong place." And it really wasn't appropriate. Leon had organized this dinner, clearly not intending it as a business meeting. Although Leon seemed approachable, trying to network like that at this moment would likely rub him the wrong way. Claire Evans was a bit impulsive, but Michael Thompson knew the score. Throughout the meal, he stuck to drinking and casual conversation, never bringing up anything related to business. After dinner finished, some people had other plans and left, but most stayed behind. The usual plan was to head to a KTV for karaoke and more drinks later. Michael Thompson wasn't a fan of such places. He found them too loud. Olivia Sullivan had only been to a KTV once in her life, right after high school graduation, and wasn't keen on them either. Claire Evans knew neither of them wanted to go, but remembering why they'd come out tonight, she jumped in. "You stopped me from talking during dinner. Tonight, Olivia at least has to come with me to karaoke. We need to find the right moment to talk seriously with Leon." Olivia Sullivan looked at Michael Thompson, asking hesitantly, "Is that okay?" "Not a chance." Michael Thompson rolled his eyes, rejecting the idea instantly. There was no way he'd let his beautiful girlfriend go alone to that kind of gathering. What if someone tried to get her drunk? Jake Wilson chimed in from the side. "Michael, don't worry. It's fine if you don't want to go. I'll go with them." "Yeah, right. When people offer you drinks, you just keep knocking them back like an idiot. Who could you possibly look after?" Michael knew Jake Wilson too well to even consider trusting him with this. Nearby, Emily Thompson chuckled. "Then just go with them if you're worried. It's okay to let loose once in a while." Michael Thompson ignored her and turned to Olivia Sullivan. "Do you want to go?" Olivia Sullivan shook her head slightly, looking conflicted, but afraid of being a killjoy. She quickly added, "If everyone else is going, I'll be fine. If you don't want to go, we don't go. Next time it's just us hanging out. I'll let you guys drink as much as you want," Michael said, understanding her reluctance. "It's fine. Emily and Jake can go with the others. Claire Evans, you stick with us. I'll find a way for you two to talk to Leon." Claire Evans looked at him skeptically. "What kind of plan could you possibly have?" "Just follow me," Michael Thompson scoffed, heading out the door first. Most of the attendees at tonight's party were college students, so they had mainly arrived by subway or taxi. The only ones who had driven themselves were Michael Thompson and Leon. Because the Golden Valley Diner was in a prime location, there was no parking nearby. You had to park in a mall's underground garage about a 10-minute walk away. Just as Leon stepped out of the restaurant, heading for the garage, he ran into Michael Thompson, Olivia Sullivan, and Claire Evans coming out. "Michael," he called out, offering a helpful tip. "It's easier to catch a cab at the intersection near the restaurant entrance." Michael Thompson smiled. "I drove." Leon gave him a slightly surprised look, but nodded without asking further. "Oh, I see. Well, it's on the way then. Let's walk together." "Sure," Michael agreed, leading Olivia Sullivan and Claire Evans alongside Leon towards the underground garage. As they walked, Leon naturally struck up a conversation with Claire Evans. "Claire Evans, about that thing you mentioned last time." He recognized her. There was a group chat for people from their hometown, and Leon was the admin. Claire Evans had been added by a senior from Oakwood High School whom Leon knew fairly well. Being outgoing and already planning to find part-time tutoring work in college, Claire had jokingly asked Leon in the chat to look out for her, addressing him as a senior from their hometown. The campus representative idea was something Olivia Sullivan had discussed with Claire later, and Claire hadn't mentioned it to Leon yet. Leon hadn't taken the younger student's joking request too seriously back then, but now, walking together, he brought it up to avoid awkward silence. This was exactly what Michael Thompson had wanted, for Leon to initiate the topic, making the conversation flow more smoothly. "Personally, I'd suggest not taking on part-time work during your first year. First-year courses are pretty demanding, and you're at a good school. It's better to focus on your studies," Leon said, again adopting his older brother tone, adding jokingly, "Failing a class in your first semester wouldn't be worth it." Claire Evans, never one to mince words, replied, "Mr. Gibson, aren't you recruiting campus representatives? I'm interested in doing that." Leon politely declined. "About that, I've already confirmed someone for Riverside Preparatory. Sorry." "Oh, well, can't be helped then." Claire Evans deflated a bit. Prompted by Michael Thompson in the car earlier, she had prepared a whole speech, but now none of it seemed useful. She felt like she'd failed before she even started. Olivia Sullivan couldn't help but gather her courage and ask, "What about Harvard University?" Leon looked at her, surprised. He'd noticed Olivia Sullivan earlier, of course. It was hard not to. She was very pretty, and any guy would look twice. But his impression was of a shy, quiet young woman. It was her boyfriend, Michael Thompson, who was the smooth, personable one. He was surprised first that Olivia Sullivan was a Harvard student, and second that such an introverted girl would want a campus representative role that required dealing with people. After a moment of surprise, he shook his head. "Sorry, we've already filled the position for Harvard University too." Olivia Sullivan's face fell with disappointment. Just then, Michael Thompson, who had been listening quietly on the side, suddenly spoke up. "Mr. Gibson, would you mind telling us who your company selected as the representatives for these two schools?" Michael Thompson's sudden interjection caught even Leon off guard. He hesitated, unable to respond immediately because his earlier statement had just been a way to brush off the two girls. The campus representative positions for Harvard University and Riverside Preparatory hadn't actually been filled yet. Leon had said they were because Olivia Sullivan and Claire Evans weren't even on his radar. How long had freshman year even started? Could students who were just in high school a few months ago really handle this responsibility? Leon didn't think so. He shared Michael Thompson's view, leaning towards sophomores or juniors, preferably male, and ideally officers in the student union. He actually had a deeper plan, to see if he could get Mr. Gibson from a university administration to help recommend part-time students. If it were any other schools, maybe he'd consider it, out of respect for them being from the same hometown and alumni. But Harvard University and Riverside Preparatory were different. The former was one of the top 2 universities in the country, and the latter was Boston's top teachers' college, its specialization a perfect fit. He valued the campus representative roles at these two schools the most, and the candidates had to be strictly screened. Leon sized up this younger student from his hometown and university, putting on a professional smile. "Company policy prevents me from disclosing details about that." Michael Thompson cursed inwardly. "We're both old foxes. Stop playing games with me." The moment Leon said the positions for both schools were filled, Michael knew exactly what he was thinking. Elite Education Group's venture into K-12 basic education was just starting out. Lacking its own teaching staff, it had become an intermediary platform, still just getting off the ground. Claire Evans and Olivia Sullivan had done their research and asked around among their classmates. They hadn't heard of anyone working part-time for Elite Education Group. This meant Elite hadn't established a presence in these two universities yet. So how could both suddenly have campus reps? However, Michael Thompson didn't call him out. Instead, he played along. "So, how's the performance of the reps at those two schools?" "Why do you ask?" "Just wondering if there's a chance to replace them." Michael Thompson was direct. If someone isn't capable, it's only natural to let someone more capable take over, right? This took Leon by surprise. He looked at Michael Thompson, an intrigued smile playing on his lips. "And how would you prove you're more capable?" Michael Thompson smiled back. "If I just told you I was capable, Mr. Gibson, you definitely wouldn't believe me. Why don't you give us a chance to prove it?" "How would I give you a chance?" "Simple. When Elite Education Group starts recruiting part-time university students, let us work alongside your chosen campus reps. We'll each do our own thing, and you can see who performs better in the end. Then you decide who to hire." Michael Thompson proposed, "If our performance is worse, at worst, we'll have worked for you for free. We'll just consider it time wasted." Leon genuinely hadn't expected this younger student to come up with such an idea. The more he looked at Michael Thompson, the more he felt this kid was quite something. "You guys aren't short on money, are you? A college student who can already afford their own car. Is it really necessary to take this job?" He didn't quite understand. His experienced eyes could tell the three didn't come from poor backgrounds. Their families seemed quite well off. "Of course, it's necessary." Michael Thompson dangled the car keys looped around his finger. "Otherwise, Mr. Gibson, how do you think I got this car? I'm not some leech who only knows how to spend family money." His words completely bluffed Leon, who now assumed Michael Thompson had earned enough for a car at such a young age through his own business ventures. Even a regular sedan would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Leon immediately saw this younger student, Michael Thompson, in a new light. After mulling it over and figuring he had nothing to lose, he nodded. "All right, I can give you a chance. But let me be clear about one thing. I won't be signing an agency contract with you this time. We will also be selecting other candidates for the two schools. When the time comes, we'll keep whoever performs better, just like you said. How does that sound?" Michael Thompson showed a satisfied smile and nodded. "That's good enough." By the end, the conversation had basically become a negotiation between Michael Thompson and Leon. The two people actually involved, Olivia Sullivan and Claire Evans, could only watch from the sidelines. Claire Evans felt a bit discouraged. She usually considered herself quite articulate, but when things got serious, her tongue seemed tied. She completely lacked Michael Thompson's clear thinking and his ability to speak so logically and persuasively. Olivia Sullivan, however, wasn't bothered. In her heart, the more capable Michael Thompson was, the better. He was her boyfriend, after all. Michael Thompson drove the car out of the garage and said to the two girls inside, "Olivia Sullivan is going on a date with me now. Third wheel, what are you going to do?" Jake and Emily went singing with them. "Are you going to join them? Or should I just drop you by the roadside? Isn't staying with Olivia an option? We haven't seen each other in ages either." Claire Evans expressed her dissatisfaction, reaching out to hug Olivia Sullivan. "Olivia belongs to everyone. You can't monopolize her." Michael Thompson mercilessly refused. "Since when do I have to share my girlfriend with you? Have some self-awareness, third wheel, and get out of the car." Claire Evans complained to Olivia Sullivan. "Olivia, your boyfriend is picking on me." Olivia Sullivan covered her mouth, laughing, and said to Michael Thompson, "All right, stop picking on Claire Evans. At least drive her over to where Jake Wilson and Emily are." "Olivia." Claire Evans gritted her teeth in frustration, muttering things under her breath like shameless couple and lovebirds. However, Michael Thompson saying he'd kick Claire Evans out at the next intersection was just a joke. He still properly drove her to the YNKTV. On the way, Claire Evans pouted and asked Michael Thompson, "You were talking big to Mr. Gibson about competing on performance. What if you screw it up?" "What do you mean talking big? I was serious." "So you have a plan?" "Huh? What's it got to do with me? I'm only responsible for getting you the opportunity. I'm not going to be the campus rep." Claire Evans was exasperated. "You already made the boast. If we don't pull it off, won't Olivia Sullivan and I be the ones embarrassed? What kind of asshole are you, Michael Thompson?" Olivia Sullivan, however, wasn't worried. She consoled Claire Evans. All right, Claire Evans, Michael Thompson is just teasing you. If he dared to say that, he must have a plan." Even without knowing exactly what he was thinking, she knew Michael wouldn't leave her hanging. He must have had an idea and a certain degree of confidence to speak like that. And this time, she had guessed right. As for how to succeed as campus reps this time, Michael Thompson indeed already had a preliminary plan in mind, and its feasibility seemed quite high. Stop beating around the bush. If you have an idea, just spit it out. As soon as Claire Evans heard Michael Thompson had a plan, she lost all interest in going to karaoke. She looked so desperate that if he didn't tell her immediately, you'd think she was about to pull a knife out of her pocket and hold it to his throat. Michael Thompson stopped teasing her. "All right, I have an idea," he said. "But before I tell you, let's hear what you two plan to do to build your network as campus reps if I weren't involved." He couldn't stick around managing this for Claire Evans and Olivia Sullivan forever. He had his own stuff to deal with. So, instead of taking over everything, he wanted to guide them. Even if they didn't succeed in the end, it wasn't a big deal. None of them were exactly hurting for cash. It would be good just for gaining some real-world experience. Claire Evans scratched her head for a moment, looking embarrassed. "Hand out flyers? Anything else?" Maybe tell classmates and friends and clubs about it. Spread the word." That was all Claire Evans could come up with. Olivia Sullivan added, "Maybe we could offer the students a slightly better commission? We could just take a smaller cut ourselves if needed." Michael Thompson summed it up. "So, your ideas boil down to promotion and better incentives." But Olivia Sullivan, cutting into the commission isn't really our call. We're working under a lead education group, and they have their own structure and rules. Besides, even if you offer a bigger cut, people might not appreciate the gesture. They might just focus on what you're still making." Olivia Sullivan blushed slightly at his words. Claire Evans had expected some praise, but Michael Thompson didn't hold back. "Don't get too pleased with yourself either, Claire Evans. While focused promotion is what we need, your approach is way too basic. Anyone could come up with that." Claire Evans shot back defensively. "All right then, let's hear your brilliant idea. When it comes to promotion, the key is visibility. You know how the university's student union has an external relations department? The one that gets sponsorships for campus events? We could offer them sponsorships in exchange for publicity. So, when you get back to campus, you should try to connect with the external relations people in different colleges." Michael Thompson continued, "Also, college students spend a ton of time online these days. Have you thought about online promotion?" "Online?" Claire Evans sounded skeptical. "But it's not just college students online." Olivia Sullivan, however, quickly caught on. "You mean like on Campus Connect?" "Exactly," Michael Thompson praised her. "And not just Campus Connect. Online forums like Tieba or social networks like RenRen could work too. The people using our university's specific forums are almost exclusively students here, so we can target our audience very precisely. He added a warning. One thing to keep in mind, though, Campus Connect is usually managed by faculty or staff in the university's IT or information center. You'll need to build some rapport there. Otherwise, getting your promotional post deleted or your accounts banned will be pretty awkward. He paused, letting his words sink in as he looked at their partially confused faces. Okay, besides promotion, he went on, we also need to optimize our service. But didn't you just say we couldn't offer better incentives? Claire Evans jumped in, thinking she'd caught him in a contradiction. Michael Thompson retorted bluntly, are you dense? Optimizing service and increasing benefits are totally different things. Think about it. 2 restaurants, same prices, food tastes exactly the same. One place is beautifully decorated with attentive servers. The other is run down, drafty, and you have to bus your own table. Which one do you choose? The one with good service, obviously. Even though the price is the same? Yeah, why would I choose the bad one if? Claire trailed off, then her eyes lit up. Oh, she clapped her hands. I get it. You mean like having a better attitude? Service with a smile, right? Michael Thompson shook his head. It's more than that. When I say optimize service, I mean making things convenient for the students who sign up with us. Right now, these kinds of agencies usually make students physically go to an office with their ID, sign contracts, and the job selection is often limited. He pulled out his phone. What we need to do is create a system where students can do everything, register, find jobs, sign up, without leaving their room, just using their phone or computer. How do we do that? We build an app, maybe call it Messenger or something, Michael explained. Students register using their student ID. Once registered, they can browse tutoring job postings right in the app and choose what they want. Then, instead of promoting Elite Education Group directly, we promote our own app. Olivia Sullivan looked surprised. Wow, you know how to code too? Actually, no, Michael admitted. Saying so might tarnish the all-capable image he had in Olivia Sullivan's eyes. But programming was definitely outside his expertise. Perhaps his full head of hair meant he wasn't destined to be a coder. But, he continued, an app like this shouldn't be too complicated to build. We could just hire some computer science undergrad or grad student to do it. It won't cost much. But there's a catch, Michael Thompson added. We absolutely need to get on good terms with the folks at the university's information center. Ideally, we get the school's official support. My long-term vision is to have our app permanently featured on Campus Connect. Maybe even get its own dedicated section. Claire Evans managed a wry smile. Listening to you, it sounds like we'll be spending a lot of money before we even start making any. What did I get myself into? You got to spend money to make money, Michael Thompson said breezily, unfazed by the initial costs. And it really won't be that much. Olivia Sullivan wasn't bothered by the money aspect either, but she looked hesitant. How do we approach the faculty or staff at the information center? If you wanted me to handle it, I could figure something out, Michael Thompson offered, then asked pointedly, but is that what you want? Olivia Sullivan immediately understood his intention. He wanted her to try. Steeling herself, she said, I'll try it myself first. Good, Michael Thompson nodded. Then it's settled. I'll find someone to build the app, and you two will handle the networking and promotion on campus. And just like that, the plan was set. That evening, Claire Evans completely lost her desire to go out. She stormed into the NKTV, dragged Jake Wilson out, and rushed back to campus, fired up and ready to make things happen. Michael Thompson and Olivia Sullivan didn't go on a date either. They simply took a walk around the Harvard University campus. Are you sure you don't need my help with the information center, folks? Michael Thompson asked, still a little worried about Olivia Sullivan, knowing how shy she could be. But Olivia Sullivan shook her head stubbornly. It's okay. I can handle it. Around 9 that evening, Michael Thompson dropped Olivia Sullivan off at her dorm and drove home. He still had painting to do tonight. The National Young Artist Competition was in late October, and he needed to prepare his pieces. Plus, he had to go back to Green Valley for a few days during Thanksgiving break, so his schedule was tight. Mr. Shaw hadn't really wanted Michael to go home for Thanksgiving break, but his apprentice had solemnly explained he had family honor matters to attend to, so Mr. Shaw had reluctantly agreed. Consequently, Mr. Shaw had been monitoring his painting progress even more closely lately. Tonight, Michael finished a painting he'd been working on for several days, 100 Birds Paying Homage to the Phoenix. He had based it on his master, Mr. Shaw's famous work, but the result only captured the form, not the spirit. Mr. Shaw held the scroll, unrolling the painting horizontally in front of him to examine it closely. He frowned, murmuring, "It feels like it's just missing something small." Michael's skills and foundation were arguably sufficient in every aspect to break through to the master level, yet he lacked that crucial touch of spirit. It was like a flash of inspiration, elusive and unpredictable, impossible to say when he might grasp it. Mr. Shaw had a sharp eye and could see his apprentice's technique was on the verge of a breakthrough, but frustratingly, he couldn't quite make that final step. This made Mr. Shaw quite anxious. He didn't critique Michael's painting directly. After pondering for a long while, he said, "In a little while, I'll take you out sketching. I'll arrange for your leave from school." There wasn't much to critique in Michael's painting itself. His fundamentals were excellent, but it felt too technical, too crafted. What he lacked wasn't technique, but inspiration. So Mr. Shaw decided to take Michael out, let him experience the beauty of the rolling hills landscape of their country, hoping it might spark some inspiration. But Michael wasn't keen on going this time. "Mr. Shaw, Thanksgiving break is almost here. I won't be back from home until after the 7th, and the competition starts around the 20th. There isn't much time left." He was also thinking about Olivia Sullivan. If he went sketching with Mr. Shaw, he couldn't be there as little Olivia's steadfast support. Michael pointed at the painting in Mr. Shaw's hands. "Why don't I just submit this one for the competition? I think it should be good enough to win an award." Mr. Shaw knew perfectly well that with Michael's skill level, competing against his peers was almost unfair. Winning an award would indeed be easy for him. But he held his apprentice to a higher standard. What was the use of merely being better than his peers? He envisioned the next national treasure master. He wanted Michael to surpass him before turning 40, wanted his apprentice to become a modern Chinese painter whose name, like Qi Baishe or Zhang Daqian, would be recorded in history. Mr. Shaw gripped both edges of the Xian paper and, without hesitation, ripped Michael's newly finished painting in half with a tearing sound. "What's the point of showing this? To embarrass yourself? Is this the extent of your ambition?" Michael. He was resigned to Mr. Shaw's explosive temper and obediently apologized. "I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw. I haven't made much progress lately, and I've been getting frustrated." Mr. Shaw rubbed his temples, reflecting on his own behavior. Actually, it wasn't Michael who was agitated. Heaven knows where Michael got his temperament. Always calm and unhurried, not like a young man at all. He, on the other hand, practically had one foot in the grave, but seemed to be getting more irritable with age. Feeling a bit guilty, he asked, "Is it because I'm putting too much pressure on you? Are you feeling too stifled? Is that why you can't find that spark?" Michael was taken aback for a moment. Too much pressure? What pressure? His days consisted of painting at home, shooting the breeze with classmates at school, and occasionally going on dates with little Olivia from the neighboring university every few days. Life was pretty comfortable. Feeling stifled? Not a chance. His inability to break through to the master level was purely because he hadn't found that specific feeling yet. "That's not it, Mr. Shaw." Michael decided to go along with him anyway. "After I get back from Thanksgiving break, let's go sketching. I'll try to find that feeling. But let's not go too far, okay? I'm still a college student, after all. Skipping too many classes isn't great." Mr. Shaw thought for a moment, then said, "Actually, that's Samuel Gibson who visited last time recently opened a resort villa in the Boston suburbs. I hear the scenery is quite nice. I'll take you there for a few days." "Deal." Michael agreed immediately. The next day, the Shaw family was having breakfast. Mr. Shaw had woken up early and already eaten. He had gone out to play chess with the old men at the alley entrance. At the breakfast table, Michael was eating pan-fried dumplings while Elizabeth Shaw spoon-fed vegetable stew to little Daisy Shaw. The little girl had a hearty appetite, getting food all over her face. "Elizabeth, does our school have a computer science department? Who comes to RISD to study computer science? Why do you ask?" "No reason. I just want to find an upperclassman who's good at programming to help me create a small program." Elizabeth Shaw replied wryly, "You should focus more on learning painting from Mr. Shaw. He hasn't been sleeping well lately, tossing and turning all night thinking about you. Have you been slacking off recently?" Michael protested. "How could I?" "Elizabeth, don't you know me better than that?" Elizabeth teased. "I know you run off to find that little girlfriend of yours every day after class. I've run into you too at the Green Valley Market several times." Michael cleared his throat awkwardly and changed the subject. "So, which university around here has the best computer science department?" "That would definitely be MIT," Elizabeth answered without hesitation. MIT, ranked among the nation's top universities alongside Olivia Sullivan's Harvard, one focusing on liberal arts, the other on science and engineering. Although MIT is technically in the same university area as RISD and Harvard, it's actually quite far. A taxi from the RISD entrance would probably take about 20 minutes to get there. Michael didn't know anyone at MIT, nor did he know who was particularly skilled at programming. But he had a trick up his sleeve. He went straight to the MIT University forum and posted, "MIT's computer science programming skills are worse than Harvard's. Prove me wrong." This was classic trolling, and soon enough, the post was flooded with angry replies. Many skilled programmers started posting their school's achievements and firing back. "This program was made by an upperclassman at our school. Can anyone at Harvard do this? You got nothing." Little finger emoji. Michael wasn't bothered by the insults at all. He watched cheerfully, adding fuel to the fire with another post. "Bullshit, your school made it. Got proof? Which major? Which class?" Seeing the poster's seemingly exasperated tone, the angry commenters got even more worked up. "Computer science, software engineering major, senior year, ID 10,228. Go look it up if you don't believe it." Okay, information acquired. Satisfied, Michael closed the forum, planning to head over to MIT during his lunch break to find this upperclassman. Just as Michael Thompson set his plan in motion, Olivia Sullivan began hers. On the east side of Harvard University's campus stood a relatively new 3-story building. Compared to the many structures steeped in history and character that dotted the rest of the grounds, this one seemed noticeably modern. It housed Harvard University's Network Information Center. Laura, who worked there, was just over 30. She wore black-framed glasses, and despite heavy makeup, faint red patches remained on her face, lingering evidence of a skin condition from her youth. Although technically a university employee, she didn't teach classes. Her duties primarily involved maintaining the campus website and handling some library-related tasks. The job was relatively low stress and stable, part of the civil service system. While it wasn't a position with many perks or opportunities for advancement, a clean post, as some might say, Laura was quite content with it. That morning, Laura arrived at Harvard as usual. As she walked into the Network Information Center building, before she even reached her office, she spotted a student waiting outside her door. She couldn't help but take a second look. The waiting student was a young girl, remarkably pretty. She was about 5 feet tall, with smooth, long hair pulled into a neat bun. Her face was fair and lovely, making her look younger than a typical college student, more like someone still in high school. Laura almost wondered if she was one of the professor's daughters. "Can I help you with something?" Laura asked pleasantly, fishing the key out of her bag and unlocking the office door. Olivia Sullivan hesitated, unsure how to begin. She followed Laura inside. The office looked much like any other staff office, though the desk was cluttered and files were tossed haphazardly into boxes stacked randomly on the floor. Laura sat down at her desk and started booting up her computer. "You must be a freshman, right?" she asked. "Need help transferring your records, or something?" "No, professor, that's not." Olivia Sullivan trailed off, hesitating. Her mind felt blank. Michael Thompson had told her to get friendly with the staff in the information center, but she had so little experience interacting with people, especially when it came to asking for a favor. She had no idea how to bring it up. After a long pause, she finally asked cautiously, "Professor, are you in charge of the university's online forum?" "The university forum?" "Yes, I am." "What?" Laura looked puzzled. The Harvard forum wasn't hosted on an external platform. It was integrated directly into the university's official website, created and managed internally. Laura was indeed responsible for its administration, though it constituted a minor part of her overall duties, and she didn't give it much thought. Her involvement was mostly limited to contacting the back-end programmers if it crashed, deleting inappropriate posts occasionally, and pinning threads from major university announcements. That was about the extent of it. Still, Olivia Sullivan seemed sweet and endearing, so Laura asked kindly, "Is someone giving you trouble on the forum? Tell me which thread, and I can take a look." "No, Professor. I, Olivia Sullivan stammered, then, flustered, blurted out, "I want to find a part-time job." Now, it was Laura's turn to be confused. A part-time job? Did she mean a work-study position? But this was the Network Information Center. They didn't handle student financial aid or work-study placements. She couldn't help but ask, "Are you sure you're in the right place?" Olivia Sullivan shook her head stubbornly. Laura was about to explain that her office didn't handle such requests when her phone rang. It was an urgent matter. After hanging up, she had to put Olivia Sullivan's request on hold. "Can you wait here for just a minute?" she asked the girl. Olivia Sullivan nodded and sat quietly, watching Laura get up and head over to a stack of boxes, where she began rummaging frantically. Perhaps because of the mess, she searched for quite a while without success, muttering under her breath, "These files are ancient. Why do they suddenly need this now? How am I supposed to find it?" Just as she was digging through the boxes, she realized someone was beside her. Laura turned her head to see the young student, who had been sitting quietly moments before, now diligently organizing the files Laura had pulled out, stacking them neatly on the floor. Olivia Sullivan noticed Laura's surprised look and offered a shy smile. Laura didn't comment and went back to her search. After another moment, she finally located the document. Standing up with the file in hand, she said, "Look, I have to step out for a bit. About the part-time job, I really don't think I can help you here. You should probably talk to your academic advisor." Olivia Sullivan looked lost, her eyes welling up slightly. She looked utterly crestfallen, but Laura genuinely had urgent business to attend to, and she truly couldn't help the girl. She grabbed the file and hurried out to deliver it. About half an hour later, when Laura returned, the office was empty. To her surprise, however, her previously cluttered office was now spotless. The floor was still slightly damp, evidence that someone had just mopped. She knew the university cleaning staff didn't handle her office because of all the sensitive computer equipment and wiring. The occupants were responsible for cleaning it themselves, and today was supposed to be her turn. Clearly, the young student had cleaned it. A wave of warmth toward Olivia Sullivan washed over Laura. Shaking her head with a small smile, she went to her desk to start her morning work. Around noon, Laura left the office to grab lunch at the cafeteria. When she returned, she was surprised to find the same young student from the morning standing outside her office door once more. Olivia Sullivan had a small bag looped around her wrist and was holding a half-eaten piece of bread. She had clearly been eating her lunch, but quickly tucked the remaining bread back into its wrapper when she saw Laura approaching. Covering her mouth politely until she'd swallowed, she then greeted her, "Hello, Professor. Why are you standing out here?" Laura asked, surprised. The door was closed. "No, I meant, why are you back? I had class this morning, so I left," Olivia Sullivan explained quickly, "but I came straight back as soon as it finished." Laura rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. She sighed. "All right, just come in and sit down." Laura let Olivia Sullivan into her office and gently explained that she couldn't help her, suggesting she talk to her advisor. But this seemingly meek girl was surprisingly stubborn. She didn't argue, didn't speak, just sat there and stared. Exasperated, Laura finally said, "Well, you can sit there. When you get tired of sitting, you can just leave. No need to tell me." Figuring the girl would eventually leave, Laura went back to the work she'd been interrupted from that morning. When she finished and was about to take a quick nap during her lunch break, she looked up and noticed Olivia Sullivan was gone. She must have left, Laura thought. Just then, the office door opened and Olivia Sullivan walked back in, carrying a bucket of water. She was small and struggled a bit with the bucket. Seeing Laura looking at her, she gave a shy smile and walked over to the bookcase. She dipped a towel into the bucket and began meticulously dusting the shelves. "You don't have to do that," Laura said. "It's okay, Professor. I'm just sitting here anyway," Olivia Sullivan replied, stubbornly, diligently wiping the shelves. She seemed unfamiliar with housework, her movements awkward, but she was clearly putting in a lot of effort. Laura, who had planned a nap, couldn't relax now. After watching Olivia Sullivan for a while, she finally got up to help. "You can't dust like that. You need to put some muscle into it. Here, give me the towel." They spent the rest of Laura's lunch break cleaning the entire office. The once messy space was now sparkling, the floor gleaming. When the break ended, Olivia Sullivan excused herself. "Professor, I have class now. Goodbye." Laura watched her gather her things and leave. She'd never met a student quite like her. Well, she probably won't be back this afternoon, she thought, looking around the spotless office. This is really... Laura was wrong. Olivia Sullivan returned around 3 o'clock after her class. Laura wondered what she would do now that the office was clean. Olivia Sullivan pulled out stacks of clear plastic book covers and binders and began organizing the boxes of files piled on the floor. Laura blushed. The files were a mess, a reflection of her casual approach to organization outside of work. This time, Laura didn't stop her, knowing it would be pointless. While Olivia Sullivan was washing her hands, Laura looked at the organized files. The student was meticulous, sorting the documents by university and departmental level, then by date. Each file was neatly protected by a binder and cover. However, the boxes contained years' worth of paperwork, and after 2 hours, Olivia Sullivan had only sorted through about a fifth of it. Olivia Sullivan returned, looking apologetic. "Professor, I'm out of book covers. I'll come back tomorrow. I should go now." "Wait," Laura said, placing a file on the now-organized shelf. She checked her phone. "It's dinner time. You've helped me a lot today. Let me buy you dinner." Olivia Sullivan's eyes lit up. "Really?" Laura nodded. "Of course." Laura took Olivia Sullivan to the school cafeteria. The meal, 2 meat dishes and a vegetable, cost only $10. Olivia Sullivan ate delicately, picking at the meat and focusing on the vegetables. Laura, thinking she was being shy, said, "Eat more meat. Don't be polite." Olivia Sullivan didn't want to say that she found the cafeteria's meat dishes too greasy. Laura, oblivious, changed the subject. "By the way, I don't even know your name." "I'm Olivia Sullivan, a freshman in the International Trade Program, Finance Department," Olivia Sullivan replied. Laura thought to herself, no wonder she went to the wrong department for work study. Probably just a little lost being new to university. She liked this diligent, pretty girl. "Have you applied for the student aid fund?" she asked. Olivia Sullivan looked surprised. "Student aid? Why would she apply for that? I think that should be for students who really need it," she said earnestly. Laura was touched. Such a good kid, leaving the opportunity for others, wanting to earn her own way through college. She decided to help Olivia Sullivan find a work-study job, an easy task for her. Plenty of positions were available, but most students, even those from poorer families, avoided them, embarrassed to be seen working or finding the low pay not worth the effort. But this student was different. "Come to my office tomorrow. I'll see what I can do about your work situation," Laura offered. Olivia Sullivan beamed. "Thank you, Professor." "You're welcome. Eat," Laura replied with a smile. Olivia Sullivan enjoyed her meal, unaware that her efforts, however well-intentioned, were leading her further and further from her original goal. While Olivia Sullivan and Laura were having dinner, Michael Thompson headed straight to MIT. The person he was looking for was named Henry, a senior majoring in software engineering within the computer science department. Michael Thompson wasn't worried about being turned down. After all, it was a chance to earn some extra cash for not much time, a decent deal for a university student. His only real concern was whether Henry, being a senior, would even be on campus. Senior year typically meant facing one of two paths, finding a job or applying for graduate school. Whichever path they chose, seniors were usually swamped. The ones lounging around were either waiting to go home to the Thompson family business, had already landed a job offer, or had completely given up, just coasting day by day. Fortunately, Michael Thompson's worries were unfounded. Henry hadn't left school. He was still at MIT. Finding him wasn't hard. Within the CS department, Henry was quite the character, though his reputation wasn't entirely positive. He was supposedly a programming prodigy, brilliant in high school. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten into MIT. As a freshman, he designed several software programs, won awards, and even received a prestigious national scholarship. However, perhaps finding university life too liberating, Henry gradually succumbed to online gaming. Now, he was infamous in the CS department as the king of the gaming lounge, holding a record for spending 11 consecutive nights there. In his senior year, he was drowning in failed courses. The once promising genius was now struggling even to graduate, let alone look for work. He just hung out day after day in the gaming lounge behind the campus, drifting aimlessly. Michael Thompson found Henry in one such gaming lounge behind MIT. The place was run down, the computers relatively old-fashioned. A thick haze of cigarette smoke hung in the air, and the floor was littered with cigarette butts. Henry was in a corner, hunched over, eyes glued to the monitor, fingers dancing relentlessly on the keyboard and mouse. He didn't even notice when Michael Thompson sat down next to him. Michael Thompson saw he was playing World of Warcraft, currently running a dungeon with others, headset on, cursing loudly into the mic. Michael Thompson decided not to disturb him mid-game and sat watching, planning to talk once Henry was finished. He never played WoW himself, but knew it held a special nostalgic value for a generation. Nowadays, with MOBAs taking over, fewer people played it in gaming lounges. It wasn't like a few years ago when you'd walk into an internet cafe and find nearly everyone playing one of three games: World of Warcraft, Fantasy Westward Journey, or Legend. After watching Henry play for a bit without really understanding, Michael Thompson turned his attention to the young man beside him. Henry wasn't tall, maybe around 5 feet 11 inches, and his features weren't just plain, they were utterly nondescript. He was rail-thin and wore glasses with lenses nearly as thick as shoe soles, giving him a distinctly nerdy look. Due to his perpetually reverse sleep schedule, he had the darkest under-eye circles Michael Thompson had ever seen, darker even than Old Cat, the reigning all-nighter champion in Michael Thompson's own class. It was hard to tell how long Henry had been holed up in this lounge. His hair was greasy and matted, and the back of his chair was slick with grime. To put it bluntly, he looked like a degenerate wreck. Michael Thompson seriously questioned if this gaming addict could be reliable. He might even resent being interrupted for money, annoyed at being disturbed mid-game. After a good while, Henry let out a cheer. The dungeon was cleared. He pulled off his headset and yelled towards the counter, "Hey, attendant! A pack of instant ramen, add a sausage." He was clearly in a good mood. The dungeon had stumped his guild for days, and they'd finally cleared it. He was celebrating, splurging by adding a sausage to his ramen. Just as Michael Thompson was about to speak, Henry turned to him first. "Hey buddy, got a smoke? Lend us one," he asked sheepishly, a sycophantic grin on his face. Michael Thompson didn't smoke and didn't carry any, but he immediately called over to the attendant, who was preparing the ramen, "Bring over a pack of cigarettes, the good ones." When the attendant brought the ramen with the sausage and the cigarettes, Michael Thompson opened the pack and placed it on Henry's desk. "You're from the north, pal?" "Whoa, thanks. Henry hadn't expected to score such good cigarettes. Pleased, he pulled one out, lit it, and took a deep drag. The long-suppressed craving was finally satisfied, and the relief was palpable. Smoking Michael Thompson's cigarette made him much warmer towards the stranger. Flicking some ash, he grinned. "How do you know I'm from the north? Is my accent that thick?" Boston was technically a northern city too, and the accents weren't drastically different, though Henry's had a heavier R sound at the end of words. Michael Thompson hadn't actually identified the accent. He smiled. "It's how you asked. Around here, people usually just say a cigarette, not count them like you did." "Oh, you know your stuff, buddy. I'm from Pine Creek Town. You from the north too?" "No, I'm from Jiang Province, but I lived up north for a few years." He wasn't lying, though it was in his previous life. He'd gone to university in the Northeast, and, while he hadn't learned much academically, he picked up a strong Northeastern Mandarin accent that still lingered. Henry wasn't introverted. Quite the opposite. He was rather chatty. He rambled on while slurping his ramen, eventually pushing the cigarette pack back towards Michael Thompson. Michael Thompson waved it off. "I don't smoke. You keep them." "Well, all right then, thanks." Henry seemed surprised by the generosity and felt a growing liking for Michael Thompson, tucking the pack into his shirt pocket with a grin. Once he finished the ramen, he called the attendant over to clear the table. The attendant came over, face full of displeasure. "Henry, you gonna pay for today's ramen, right?" Henry instantly looked awkward, forcing a smile. "Come on, man, we're buddies. Why bring that up? Just put on my tab for now, okay?" "Who's buddies with you?" The attendant, a young guy himself, started losing his temper. "We let you run a tab 'cause you were a regular. But when do you ever pay on time? The boss said if you don't clear last month's tab, you're banned from the lounge." Being called out so directly, especially with Michael Thompson present, made Henry flush with shame and anger. "I've spent at least maybe $20,000 in this place," he retorted hotly. "What's the big deal about a small tab? Haven't you guys made enough money off me?" "Business is business," the attendant shot back. "We're not running a charity here. If you don't pay, the boss docks my pay. What am I supposed to do? I never said I wouldn't pay. As soon as I get my allowance next month, I'll pay you back immediately." As Henry and the attendant argued, several people in the gaming lounge took off their headsets and turned to watch the commotion. Michael Thompson cut in, asking, "How much does he owe your gaming cafe?" The manager stated a figure. It wasn't much, just over $500. Michael Thompson pulled out his wallet, counted out a few bills, and handed them to the manager. "Here's $600. That should cover the instant noodles and cigarettes from earlier too, right?" The manager took the money, counted it, nodded, and pocketed it. No longer interested in arguing with Henry, he went back to his counter. After settling Henry's debt, Michael Thompson looked at him. Henry looked back, quite embarrassed. Thanks for that. I'll pay you back." Michael Thompson gave a non-committal smile and asked, "Are you short on cash?" "Money. Everyone needs it. Whoever complains about having too much." Henry tried to save face. Despite being flat broke, he found himself an excuse. "Then how about I offer you a way to make some money?" Michael Thompson seized the opportunity. "You don't have to pay back that $600. If you're willing to do this job, consider it a down payment." Henry wasn't stupid. He'd already figured out Michael Thompson had come specifically for him. After all, Michael had entered the gaming cafe, didn't even log onto a computer, just sat next to him watching him play, offered him a cigarette, and paid off his debt. Would a complete stranger really be that generous? That wasn't kind-hearted, that was just naive. However, Henry didn't even have money for cigarettes or internet time, and his next allowance from home was still a long way off. He barely had money for food these next few days and was desperate for a way to earn even just enough for internet fees. Still, he cautiously added, "I won't do anything illegal." "It's not illegal. I just need your help building a back-end system." "Can you do it?" "A back-end system? What kind?" "We run a tutoring agency. Basically, help us build a system like a job recruitment website, accessible on both phones and computers." Michael Thompson didn't know programming or the technical jargon, so he just listed his requirements, like student ID verification for registration, smart job sorting, a rating system, and so on. Listening to Michael's requirements, Henry honestly didn't think it sounded too difficult, but he was puzzled. Why don't you hire a proper company? Why me? Michael Thompson was frank. You're cheaper, and I don't think this is too complicated. A college student should be able to handle it. You have a point there. Henry thought for a moment. It didn't seem problematic. It was basically building a website plus a simple app. So, how much can you pay? Just so we're clear, this requires renting a domain name, you know? Those costs shouldn't come out of my end. He was thinking if it was $1,000 or $2,000, he'd take the job. But Michael Thompson was far more generous than he'd imagined. $5,000. That's for you. Costs are separate. Whether it's done well or poorly is another matter, but it at least needs to be functional, understand? Hearing the huge sum of $5,000, Henry's eyes practically lit up. He barely registered Michael's subsequent words and readily agreed. Don't worry about it. I guarantee I'll get it done. How long will it take? If you're in a hurry, half a month could work. But with more time, I could do a better job, avoid bugs everywhere. Michael Thompson calculated the timing. Let's aim for after Thanksgiving break. That still gives you over 2 weeks. Work towards that deadline. Henry readily nodded in agreement. Okay. They exchanged contact information, and Michael Thompson considered his trip a success. Time passed, day by day, and soon it was September 29th. Thanksgiving break was just 2 days away. Michael Thompson had a relatively peaceful time, occasionally checking in with Henry on Messenger about the development progress, otherwise focusing on his own tasks. The only thing he found slightly odd was that Olivia Sullivan had become quite busy recently. Too busy even for dates. Usually, if Michael went 2 days without contacting her, she'd call him, subtly trying to arrange a meetup, even if it was just strolling aimlessly around the Harvard University campus, chatting. But lately, she was like a different person. Sometimes when Michael offered to visit her at Harvard, she would hesitate and tell him not to come over. Michael almost suspected little Olivia Sullivan had had a change of heart about him. But then he thought, who in the world could be more outstanding than him? And he felt reassured. Really no meeting today? If you're busy, I could just watch from the side. I won't disturb you. And no, really don't. You absolutely cannot come over, okay? Hearing Olivia use absolutely 3 times in a row, Michael was momentarily speechless. It seemed like she had some secret she couldn't let him see. Michael sighed and relented. All right then, I'll go ask out my other girlfriends. Goodbye, girlfriend number 1. Talk later. Michael Thompson. Olivia's exasperated voice erupted from the other end of the phone. Meanwhile, in a Harvard University dining hall, in Dining Hall 1, on the first floor at a stall with a sign reading Chicken Stew, Olivia Sullivan sat on a small stool, clad in a white apron and hood, looking like an adorable little kitchen helper. She held her phone, staring at the ended call screen with Michael, biting her lip, clearly annoyed. After a moment, though, she sighed again, a hint of helplessness crossing her small face. Having dated Michael Thompson for so long, Olivia knew he wasn't the type to be fickle. He was just expressing his slight unhappiness about them not having dated in a while. Olivia wanted to see Michael too. She wanted to hold his arm, snuggle against him, go out for meals, watch movies, and shop at the mall with him. But she glanced down at the apron she was wearing and couldn't help but sigh softly again. Just then, Aunt Daisy, who was busy in the kitchen area, called out, "Little Olivia, break time's over. Students will be flooding in soon after class." Hearing her name, Olivia quickly put her phone away and composed herself. Coming. She, Olivia Sullivan, granddaughter of the wealthiest man in Green Valley, Newport Coast, a little princess born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Now a glorious part-time worker at a Harvard dining hall window, taking orders and serving food, earning $10 an hour, plus 1 free meal. This was the reason Olivia couldn't go on dates with Michael Thompson lately, and why she desperately didn't want him coming to Harvard. She didn't want her boyfriend to see her dishing out food in the cafeteria line. Did I not explain things clearly enough to Professor Gibson? Is that how I ended up like this? She wondered, starting to reconsider. She decided to find a chance to talk to Professor Gibson again in a couple of days. For now, back to serving food. Michael, what are your plans for the fall break? Tyler Johnson asked suddenly while he, Michael Thompson, and their other roommate were eating together. Tomorrow was October 1st, the start of a 7-day break at the Rhode Island School of Design. Since university students came from all over, most chose to stay on campus unless their families lived locally. Hey Michael, you're not from around here, right? Tyler Johnson invited. Why don't you hang out with us? We're planning to crash at my place for a couple of days during the break. All expenses on me. What's so fun about your place? Michael Thompson shook his head. He already had his own plans for the break. I'll pass. Come on my bed. It's by IG and so oft. Tyler Johnson teased with a sly grin. Get out of here. Michael Thompson swatted playfully, then added, "Seriously, though, I can't make it for the break. I need to go back home." Gregory, the bespectacled guy nearby, chimed in, "Going all the way back just for 7 days? Isn't your home state pretty far from here?" "Taking my girlfriend home to meet my parents," Michael Thompson admitted frankly. There wasn't much point hiding things from Tyler and the others. Hearing this, Tyler and the others were instantly envious. Among them, only Akai had a girlfriend he'd been dating since high school. The rest were still single. They knew Michael Thompson had a girlfriend, Olivia Sullivan, though they hadn't met her. To them, taking a girlfriend home to meet the parents this early in college? Michael was really something else. Gregory joked, "Bringing her home so soon? You're not planning on getting married before graduation, are you?" "Don't be ridiculous. Got to finish college first," Michael Thompson said, then reconsidered, adding, "unless something unexpected happens." "What kind of unexpected?" Gregory started to ask, but Kai nudged him, laughing. "You clueless virgin, you don't even get that?" The others instantly caught on with a collective joining the teasing. "Michael, make sure to invite me to the wedding. I'll fly over, no matter what." Me too. I call dibs on being a groomsman." Michael Thompson waved magnanimously. "You don't have to come in person, just make sure the wedding gifts arrive." His comment earned him scornful looks from the others, who all declared they would definitely eat their money's worth. On the morning of October 1st, Michael Thompson went to pick up Olivia Sullivan. He had initially planned to drive back himself, but since Jake Wilson wasn't going, there was no one to switch off driving with. Driving over 10 hours alone would be exhausting, so he decided flying was the better option. Emily Thompson was going back too, but Michael wouldn't dare let her drive on the highway. Even in the city, she drove like she wished her car had wings attached to the tires. It wasn't just driving fast, it was flying too low. When Michael Thompson arrived at the Harvard University School Plaza, Olivia Sullivan was already waiting by the entrance, holding a small bag. He hadn't seen her in a few days, and little Miss Olivia Sullivan was as pretty as ever, wearing a cute dress and a teddy bear backpack, her smooth long hair tied up in a bun. She stood there looking around, and when she spotted Michael Thompson approaching, her eyes seemed to light up like little stars. Michael walked over and greeted her. "Long time no see, girlfriend number one." Olivia, who had been about to give him a big hug, instantly flared up at his words, her cheeks puffing out. Michael grinned and reached for her bag, but she turned away in a huff, not letting him take it. "Go carry bags for your girlfriends number 2 and 3. "Ooh, someone's mad?" Michael poked her puffy cheek. "You're the one who's been ignoring me for days. I should be the one who's mad. I almost thought I'd been dumped without even knowing it." He held his left index finger and thumb a tiny distance apart. "You were this close to going from girlfriend number 1 to ex-girlfriend number 1, you know?" Olivia looked flustered, her expression crumbling slightly. "Aren't you going to make it up to me?" Michael teased. MMPH. Olivia's cheeks flushed red. Glancing around, she leaned in, wrapped her arms around Michael, stood on her tiptoes, and planted a quick kiss on his cheek. Michael smacked his lips, savoring it. "Not quite enough." Olivia glared, embarrassed and annoyed, raising a hand as if to hit him. All right, I'll let you owe me. You're forgiven for today," Michael said, deciding to quit while he was ahead, knowing how easily embarrassed she got. "Let's go. Emily Thompson's going to get impatient soon." When he reached for Olivia Sullivan's bag again, she didn't refuse this time. Since they were only going back for 7 days, neither had packed much. Michael brought a couple of changes of clothes, and Olivia just had some skincare products and essentials, both fitting easily into one bag each. In the taxi, Olivia Sullivan wanted to chat with Michael Thompson, especially since they hadn't seen each other for several days. But Michael Thompson kept looking down at his phone, which had been buzzing nonstop since they got in the car. He was busy replying to messages and hadn't said a word to her. It made Olivia want to grab his head and make him look at her, his actual girlfriend sitting right beside him. "Who keeps messaging you so much?" she asked, a hint of jealousy in her voice. Michael Thompson looked up at her, smiled, and turned his phone screen toward her. "It's my mom, Margaret Thompson, asking when I'll be home." "Oh, Aunt Maggie. Never mind then." Watching Michael Thompson happily chat with his mom, Olivia Sullivan couldn't help but glance at her own phone. Not a single new message, except for one from her grandfather yesterday, asking about her arrival time. A wave of disappointment washed over her. Michael Thompson noticed Olivia Sullivan's slightly downcast expression. He thought for a moment, put his phone away, and asked her, "When we get back, should we go to your place first or mine?" "Let's go to our own homes first," Olivia Sullivan said, the thought of the trip making her forget her disappointment and feel shyly embarrassed instead. "I haven't told my grandpa yet." Michael Thompson took her hand and patted it gently. Then I'll go home with you right after we land. I'll talk to Arthur Sullivan. But my parents. Olivia Sullivan was touched, but hesitant. If you want me to meet your parents, I'm fine with that too. No objections from me, Michael Thompson said. Olivia Sullivan thought for a long time, neither nodding nor shaking her head. Let me ask first, she finally said. Although her relationship with her parents wasn't exactly warm, and the Sullivan family dynamics were notoriously complex, Olivia Sullivan still wanted to introduce Michael Thompson properly to her family as her boyfriend. By the time Michael Thompson and Olivia Sullivan got to the airport, Emily Thompson had already been waiting for a while. Seeing them, she stood with her hands on her hips. Did you two walk here? What took you so long? Once they boarded, the three found their seats were conveniently in the same row. Michael Thompson had originally taken the aisle seat on the right, with Olivia Sullivan next to him and Emily Thompson by the window. But after boarding, Emily Thompson switched places with Olivia Sullivan, sidling up to Michael Thompson with an ingratiating grin. Michael Thompson had just put on his eye mask, planning to nap on the plane. Hearing an unfamiliar voice beside him, he lifted the mask slightly with one hand, squinting at Emily. Young lady, he mumbled, don't push your luck. I'd rather not wake up with your drool soaking my shoulder. Does Olivia drool when she sleeps? Emily feigned surprise. Olivia Sullivan flushed beet, red instantly, stammering, of course not. All right, what do you need from me? Michael Thompson cut the topic short, seeing that little Olivia was already waiting with an annoyed expression. Emily Thompson chuckled. Just a small thing. I'll switch back with Olivia as soon as I'm done. Won't disturb you too. Out with it. Or leave us be. This humble servant finds herself short on funds lately, Emily said dramatically. Might young master spare a few coins? Borrow money? Michael Thompson didn't mind lending to Emily Thompson. Given their relationship, it wasn't like she'd ever have to pay it back. He was just a bit puzzled. What do you need to buy? Isn't the allowance Aunt Maggie gives you enough? Ever since they were kids, the Thompson family had always treated Michael and Emily exactly the same. What one got, the other got. What one wasn't allowed, the other wasn't either. Their pocket money had always been identical. Now in college, their living allowances were also the same. And since the Thompson family's fortunes had soared in the past 2 years due to their mining business, they'd become much more generous with their children's allowances. Nearly $300 a month, definitely more than most college students received. Michael Thompson, for instance, lived and ate at Samuel Shaw's place, didn't smoke or drink, and only spent a few hundred a month on meals out with friends and gas money. Although Emily Thompson had food expenses, the little money hoarder had always been incredibly frugal. Unlike Michael, who spent his pocket money as soon as he got it, she had been saving hers since childhood and should have amassed a tidy sum. Why the sudden shortage of cash? Faced with Michael Thompson's curiosity, Emily Thompson whispered mysteriously, "It's a secret. Just let me a bit for now." Since she wouldn't say, Michael Thompson didn't press further. How much do you need? How much do you have on hand? Michael Thompson had tens of thousands left after buying his car, but he'd recently sold another carving, adding over $30,000 to his account. He had around $70,000 or $80,000 readily available. This, of course, didn't include the card Olivia Sullivan had given him. If he counted that card, Michael Thompson had a 7-figure amount at his disposal. Olivia Sullivan asked curiously, "Emily Thompson, are you buying something specific? I can lend you some." Emily Thompson knew her cousin had landed himself a rich girlfriend. After all, she went to the same school as Olivia Sullivan and had known her long enough to be aware of the Sullivan family background. However, while she felt no pressure borrowing from Michael Thompson, asking Olivia Sullivan still felt a bit awkward. No need. Michael Thompson can just lend it to me. All right then. Olivia Sullivan didn't insist, especially since her allowance was currently in Michael Thompson's hands anyway. Michael Thompson figured Emily Thompson would borrow a few thousand at most, so he didn't think much of it. Just name a number. Emily Thompson held up her fingers, forming a 2. 2,000. 20,000. Honestly, which vice did you get into? Gambling? Drugs? What are you talking about? Emily Thompson protested indignantly. But Michael Thompson looked at her, perplexed. Then why borrow so much? Eyeing some luxury brand bag? No, I need the money for something serious. Then tell me, if it's a legitimate reason, I might even add a little extra. $20,000 was pocket change from Michael Thompson, but he worried Emily Thompson might be heading down a wrong path. His cousin was such a free spirit, capable of doing almost anything outrageous. $20,000 was no small sum for a college student. Michael Thompson needed to know what she planned to do with it. Seeing that Michael Thompson wouldn't lend her the money unless she told the truth, Emily Thompson finally relented. "A senior I'm really close with is about to graduate. She wants to open a drink stall on campus, and I want to go in on it with her. Michael Thompson was surprised Emily Thompson had already made close friends with seniors. But then again, considering her social butterfly personality, it wasn't strange. Still, he worried she might be getting scammed. Rent in Boston is expensive, especially around the universities. $20,000 might not even cover a month's rent, right? Our school has a support program for student startups. The bubble tea shop would be inside the cafeteria, so the rent is much cheaper than other food stalls, Emily Thompson explained. I've saved some money myself. I'm just $20,000 short. Why is everyone suddenly thinking about making money freshman year? Question mark. Emily Thompson didn't know about Olivia Sullivan and Claire Evans' plans to find part-time jobs, so she was confused by Michael Thompson's comment. Michael Thompson scratched his head. He didn't remember Emily Thompson starting a business during college in his past life. But then again, in his past life, he and Emily hadn't attended college in the same city. This time around, circumstances were different. It was perfectly normal for things to happen that hadn't occurred before. He shook his head, deciding not to dwell on it, and agreed. All right, fine. I'll transfer it to your account later. Emily Thompson was astonished. You actually have $20,000? I was just hoping you'd have a few thousand, and I'd figure out the rest. Who are you looking down on? My competition prize money is really high. Michael Thompson was bluffing. Most competitions he entered had little to no prize money. Some even required an entry fee and only awarded a medal for winning. Most of his money came from selling his sculptures. Emily Thompson immediately looked envious. I should have studied painting. Damn, feels like I missed out on a gold mine. Michael Thompson slept comfortably on the plane, but after landing, his neck felt stiff, like he had a crick in it. When I get rich, I'm definitely buying a private jet, he muttered unhappily, rubbing his neck as he followed the crowd towards the exit. Emily Thompson raised both hands in agreement. Then work hard and make money. When you buy a private jet, I'll get my pilot's license and be your driver. Suddenly, walking seems healthier, greener, and more eco-friendly. What's that supposed to mean? Michael Thompson ignored Emily Thompson's indignant cries, pouting, as if he'd dare fly in a plane piloted by Emily Thompson. He glanced at Olivia Sullivan beside him. She seemed to have been lost in thought since they got off the plane, looking rather preoccupied. It's okay. It's not like you haven't met Arthur Sullivan before, Michael Thompson comforted her, assuming she was nervous about meeting her parents. But Olivia Sullivan shook her head. That wasn't what she was thinking about. She asked, Michael Thompson, do you think my school has programs to support student startups? Emily Thompson's words today gave Olivia Sullivan some inspiration. She subtly fished for more information from Emily and learned that some universities, in an effort to boost graduate employment rates, implement various measures, including supporting student entrepreneurship. Most schools encourage students to start their own businesses, even offering policy support and certain conveniences. Having just started college and having had little interaction with upperclassmen, Olivia Sullivan was unfamiliar with many things. She didn't know if Harvard University had similar policies, but if they did, could they perhaps help her? Michael Thompson said, I'm not sure about that. Every school is different, but you could ask around at your school student union, or just ask your academic advisor directly. That's the easiest way. Olivia Sullivan nodded. Okay, I got it. Green Valley didn't have its own airport, so getting there from Boston required flying to neighboring Riverside City first, then taking a train back to Green Valley. Luckily, there was a direct subway line from the Riverside City Airport to the train station, and the train ride home was less than an hour. After arriving in Green Valley, the long day of travel left the three of them quite tired. Emily Thompson stood at the entrance of the Green Valley train station, waiting for her family to pick her up. Since both Thompson University students were returning today, Emily Thompson's father, Robert Thompson, Michael's fourth uncle, had driven into the city himself to pick them up. Michael, Dad probably won't be here for a little while. Want to grab something to eat? Emily Thompson asked Michael Thompson, looking down at her phone. Michael Thompson shoved his luggage into her hands. Emily, I'm not going back with you right away. Can you take my bags back for me? Emily Thompson instinctively took the luggage, asking bewilderedly, Where are you going? Michael Thompson glanced at Olivia Sullivan beside him and said to Emily, Don't worry about it. Haven't you two been lovey-dovey enough the whole trip? Can't you take a break for one day? Emily Thompson assumed Michael was ditching her because she was being a third wheel and wanted some alone time with his girlfriend. She made a face and said, What am I supposed to tell Aunt Maggie when she asks? It's fine, I'll text Mom in a bit. Well, if Aunt Maggie asks, I'm just going to tell her the truth. Go ahead, tell her. Michael Thompson waved his hand dismissively, completely unconcerned. Then he ditched Emily, left standing there with a sour face guarding the luggage, grabbed Olivia Sullivan's hand, and walked off. In Green Valley during October, the lingering autumn heat, often called an Indian summer, still held sway. The outdoor temperature was much warmer than in Boston. Most people on the streets were still wearing short sleeves, and quite a few fashion-conscious young women carried parasols. It was just past 2 in the afternoon, and the sun was shining brightly. Green Valley was a slow-paced city, perfect for retirement. Even though it was the Thanksgiving break holiday, there weren't many pedestrians on streets. 2 rows of maple trees lined the sidewalks. When the gentle breeze blew, it carried a few maple leaves down, swirling slowly through the air before landing near several small stalls selling snacks under the shade of the trees. Olivia Sullivan spotted a cotton candy stall and suddenly stopped in her tracks, tugging on Michael Thompson's hand to keep him from walking on. She didn't say anything, just stared intently at the cotton candy stall, then turned her head to look at Michael Thompson, blinking her eyes appealingly. Michael Thompson chuckled, walked over to the cotton candy stall, spent $5 on one, and handed it to Olivia Sullivan. Olivia Sullivan's eyes crinkled into beautiful crescents as she beamed, happily taking the cotton candy and eating it in small bites. Wow, prices have gone up fast. When we were in high school, cotton candy was only $3, sometimes even $2. Now it's $5, Michael Thompson remarked wistfully beside her. Olivia Sullivan couldn't care less how much the cotton candy cost. She tore off a small piece, held it in her fingers, and brought it close to Michael Thompson's lips. Michael Thompson looked at her, puzzled. Head lowered, she blushed and whispered, "Open your mouth." Michael Thompson couldn't help but smile and obediently opened his mouth. The moment her fingers touched his lips, his tongue playfully flicked against her fingertip. Olivia Sullivan recoiled instantly as if shocked, pulling her hand back and pouting at Michael Thompson with a mix of shyness and annoyance. Michael Thompson pressed his palms together like praying in church and said with mock reverence, "Delicious. Thank you for the treat." It was unclear whether he meant the cotton candy or her fingertip was delicious. Olivia Sullivan was both exasperated and amused, but she couldn't really stay mad at Michael Thompson's playful nature. She could only mutter shyly, "You're impossible." But the corners of her lips couldn't help but curve upwards as she tore off another piece of cotton candy and offered it to Michael Thompson's mouth. Michael Thompson grinned, about to open his mouth, when he suddenly froze. He noticed a silver sedan had abruptly stopped in the lane beside them, not far away, and the window was slowly rolling down. In the driver's seat, Michael Thompson's fourth uncle, Robert Thompson, was watching the young couple's affectionate moment. Uncle and nephew made direct eye contact. Michael Thompson was still frozen with his mouth open. Robert Thompson watched for a moment, then silently rolled the window back up. Then the car's engine revved, and it drove off without a backward glance. This time, even Michael Thompson, despite his usual composure, couldn't help but blush. He and Olivia Sullivan had just left the train station, and Robert Thompson was driving to the station to pick someone up. Encountering each other on this inevitable route was perfectly normal. But Michael Thompson had been keeping an eye out, paying attention to the passing cars. Who would have thought his fourth uncle had gotten a new car? Getting caught in a situation like this by relatives was really quite embarrassing. Olivia Sullivan hadn't noticed the brief encounter. Seeing Michael Thompson's strained expression, she asked puzzledly, "What's wrong?" "Just ran into my fourth uncle," Michael Thompson said sheepishly. Olivia Sullivan gasped, "When?" "Just when you were feeding me cotton candy." She immediately covered her face and scurried forward in embarrassment. Michael Thompson safely escorted Olivia Sullivan to the Sullivan family home and watched her go inside. Olivia Sullivan opened the gate and was about to step inside, one foot already over the threshold, but couldn't resist turning back to ask Michael Thompson, "Are you sure you're not coming in with me?" Michael Thompson spread his hands. "It wouldn't be right for me to show up empty-handed. Arthur Sullivan won't mind." "How can that be the same? This is my first official visit as a dutiful prospective suitor," Michael Thompson declared righteously. "Proper etiquette is essential." Olivia Sullivan blushed crimson right up to her neck, sputtering indistinctly, just a boyfriend. "We're not there yet." "Close enough." "Then should I go with you to buy something?" "No need. You go on in. It might be good to give Arthur Sullivan a little heads up anyway." Michael Thompson waved her off, indicating she should go home first, and he would come right over after buying a gift. Olivia Sullivan looked at him reluctantly, then waved goodbye and went inside the house.